Speaking out of Akron, Ohio, representing Team Popping the Boys, the headline god, Jeremy Lambert, and his co-host, speaking out of Atlanta, Georgia, representing more than one royal family, the king of indie viewing, Stephen Jensen. And this is the Spotlight on Fightful.
Welcome, everyone, to the Spotlight here on Fightful. I am Jeremy Lambert. That is Stephen Jensen. And shout out to Big Dick MLJ, as always, for the intro. It is February 29th. We got a lot to talk about, as always, in the world of wrestling. Before we begin, though, Jensen, how you doing, buddy?
I'm doing good, man. I'm tired. this morning, but I actually got a pretty good night's sleep. I went to a good old Dave & Buster's last night. Dave & Buster's, damn it. So, yeah, when after one of our interviews you're all going to hear, we recorded last night. We recorded 2 interviews for y'all. You're going to hear 2 awesome interviews today.
Yeah, Dave & Buster's, damn it.
I was waiting for that. But yeah, after our interview with Scott Hensley last night, I went to Dave & Buster's for a little while. Caught up on, I watched like a good chunk of AEW Dynamite live and caught up the rest of it after. So yeah, this is it's been a pretty good day, pretty good week. How about you, man?
It's been well. It's been busy, as it always is. You know, last weekend was a little bit of a break. I guess it was like 2 weekends ago. It was a little bit of a break, but now things are picking back up in full force. We had MLW show tonight. There's the usual. Collision was taped last night, but that'll be on Saturday. Revolution, of course, on Sunday. So always stuff going on around here. But you know, we get things done. We do have a James Zimmerman who is re-upped with us for 22 months. One last time. Sting saves the day. Member for 22 months. We appreciate you, James. Thanks, buddy.
Yeah, he did. Sting did save the day. We'll talk about that. That was very cool. As a WCW kid, that was very cool.
Guys, leave a super chat. Get your question, comment, statement read on the air. You can leave a thumbs up on the video as well. Subscribe to the channel. It helps us out. Subscribe to Fightful Overbooked. If you would like to, that's our sister channel. Subscribe to Fightful Select. That's where you get all the scoops and all that fun stuff. And just go to Fightful.com for all the news. All right, Jensen, let's get into it. A lot to talk about. We're going to begin with an ending, unfortunately.
Over 1 million fans and a great number in the demo tuned in. And it was a great show. And I think it's been a run of great shows.
Probably got to update that. They haven't done 1 million in like 2 years now. Hopefully last night's show does 1 million viewers, because the fans deserved and everyone deserves to see Sting one last time last night on AEW Dynamite. He saved the day coming down from the rafters. The moment he did not come out immediately, I was like, I wonder if they're going to do a rafters spot here. I assume they took all the precaution in the world to do this, to just, you know, because they didn't do it in WCW anymore after the tragic death of Owen Hart. I think they maybe did it once or twice in TNA. They haven't done it in AEW yet. So again, I assume they took all the precaution in the world. Fortunately, it went off without a hitch. But when the Bucks started making their way up the ramp, it was like, oh, they're doing the rafters spot. He's coming down from the rafters. And sure enough, Sting came down from the rafters to save Darby Allin. He's a little slow. Could have, you know, come out a little bit earlier. Darby's getting beat up pretty bad by that point. Final match on Sunday at Revolution. We're going to talk in detail a little bit about Revolution. But Sting's, his final match, Darby Allin and him against the Young Bucks, Matthew and Nicholas Jackson for the AEW Tag Team titles. What did you think of last night's spot, and what are you expecting from his final match, Jensen?
Man, well, first of all, I wanted to say with you know, coming down from the rafters, we also want to keep in mind that that Owen Hart's estate is, like, you know, involved with AEW, and like he gets action figures and stuff. I'd imagine they were at least like somewhat given a heads up, like, hey, we're planning on doing this, like, just so you know what I mean. Like, I'd imagine there's still a lot of, obviously there's a lot of sympathy towards what happened to Owen, but I would imagine they took every precaution in the world, like you said, to make sure everything was going to go smooth last night. And it even looked like there was like a guy like helping Sting the second he landed, like getting like the stuff off of him. Like, it wasn't like left up to Sting to like drop himself, unhook himself. Like, you could tell that there was like a team that had worked on this. So I want to throw that out there first, that they did it safely. And that all out of the way. Oh, man. Okay, so for those of you who don't know, me and Jeremy are both in our mid-30s. Like, we grew up during the Monday Night Wars. We were both fans of WCW. We're both, lifelong fans of Sting. I'll say it right now. I think Sting, top 5 dead or alive, all-time pro wrestler. Legit. I think that highly of Sting. And because when you keep it his longevity and the different companies he worked for, and just him being a top guy the entire time, and just everyone, even if you're not a wrestling fan, you know who Sting is. The face paint, and he doesn't have to do a whole lot. I have so much respect for the fact that he could have come out in AEW these last few years and done nothing, just done the nostalgia act, which he kind of did a little bit, but he did that mixed in with elevating Darby, and at the same time, Sting was jumping off everything during this run. I mean, you know what I mean? He didn't have to do
it. Was all he was, according to Darby, he was the one pitching it too. He's like, this balcony up here, yeah, I'll jump off of that, go through this table, yeah, this is what I wanted to.
I believe it, because he's probably I don't want to bring these people down. He probably feels privileged in a way that he's allowed to be involved in that. I mean, I'd say allowed. It's Sting. Like I said, he's one of the best ever, in my opinion, in the history of pro wrestling. But the game has changed a lot since, he started. And when he's having matches against this new generation of wrestlers, especially in AEW, that's going to be known, more as a work rate company, in a lot of ways. You're going out there against, people who have made their names for the most part on having really, really good in-ring matches. So he's probably going out there being I don't want people looking at me saying, why is Sting even out there? He's, let me jump off. If Darby's going to jump off something, I'll jump off something. You know what I mean? And I also love the way that during this run, they were able to mix in so much of that with the nostalgia in a really great way, in my opinion. Cause even I remember that spot he did with 2.0 where they put him through the table, and he just stood up and started, and the place just goes absolutely insane still for stuff like that. Or even Sting coming down last night, and he's got his bat, and Matthew and Nicholas have the what do you call it?
Silver. They had their bats too.
Silver bats. I was thinking pole for some reason. Yes, they had silver bats. Sorry, and Sting coming down and just fighting them off like a superhero, and Darby coming down with the coffin drop. This was awesome. I was
very happy that they did the spot where Sting holds the bat like that to when the I forgot if it was Matthew or Nicholas swings it to hit him in the face, but he blocks it like that. There was the spot, I think it was Angle, they screwed it up in TNA where the bat went through, he dropped it and it cracked him right in the face. I think it was Kurt. I was very worried when they were about to do that spot. I was like, oh, I hope that bat does not get through and it knocks Sting's hand away and cracks him in the face.
Oh no, wouldn't that be something? But I just think it was just really cool that they, it's obvious in so many ways that not even to name specific names, but I mean, Tony Khan and Will Washington, a lot of the people that are behind the scenes and people that we know grew up as Sting fans, so it's they're giving him this great send off in this way that I've talked about it before, but I feel like AEW for a lot of wrestlers is going to become on the way out of at the end of their career. I think there's going to be a lot of wrestlers that write their love letter to professional wrestling through AEW on their way out. People who finish their runs in WWE, excuse me, or anywhere else that they're at, and they're like, you know what, I really want to go out on my terms, my own way, and I think I can do that if I go to AEW for a couple years. And you're seeing it with Edge right now as well. But it's just so cool seeing him go out the right way, because when we first saw Sting have to retire, it was the buckle bomb from Seth Rollins. Our last image of him in the ring was it was scary. He couldn't move. I mean, he was he took the buckle bombs and he couldn't hit the ropes and stuff. He was locked up, and it was really scary to see. And we thought that was it. And then he did all of this for us in AEW. I mean, just absolutely incredible. and I'm pumped for their match on Sunday. And I honestly, I think there's a good chance it's going to be up to Sting ultimately, I think, but I think there's a good chance Sting and Darby win on his way out at this point. Like it may happen. I'm actually completely fine with either outcome because the Young Bucks are doing great as heels. This is the most interesting they've been in a long time as characters. And, if Sting and Darby win, that's a great, send off for Sting. Either he's going to put them over on the way out or he's going to, win his final match. I feel like it's a win-win for the fans. It's a win-win for the wrestlers. Like I love everything about this.
It'll definitely be up to Sting as to who wins. If Sting wants to go out on top and have the big celebratory moment, that's what they'll do. If Sting wants to put the Young Bucks over, that's what they'll do. So a couple questions for you. One, who do you think should win? Let's allow you to book this. It's obviously again Sting's choice, but let's say you have the choice of thinking in the best interest of Sting or the company, your choice on that. And two, are you closing the show with this match?
Well, if he's gonna win, I would close the show with it. Personally, if I was in charge, and I'm not the type who really likes to do fantasy booking because I don't like to get attached to ideas for wrestling shows that haven't even happened and then get outraged if they don't happen.
You don't have to get outraged if it doesn't happen. You can just be like, "Oh,
no." But I'm saying that's what a lot of wrestling fans do, though.
Right.
That's why there's so many. That's honestly the root of so much of the tribalism and the fights that wrestling fans get in with one another is because they get an idea in their head about something they want to see or someone they want to get pushed, and then it doesn't go exactly how they plan, and then somebody else is happy about it, and they that's anyway. But I would say if I was booking AEW, yes, Sting and Darby would win this match. I'd have Sting make that final pinfall or submission with the deathlock. But I'm also interested to see what face paint he comes out with. Like if he comes out colorful face paint, if he comes out no face paint, I don't know. That's going to be interesting what he goes with. Were you going to say something, Jeremy?
Yeah, I don't think it's going to be no face paint. I think he does the traditional black and white. I think Darby might go colorful because Darby has the blonde hair, kind of the throwback. He's not Surfer Darby. He's Skater Darby. But
actually skates. We've never seen Sting surf ever, by the way.
I think he might. It's just me speculating, but I think he might do the surfer gear because that would break from what you definitely expect as well. Darby's always done the black and white, so him going more colorful would be a little surprising. But I think he can pull it off.
I like that. That's a good idea. It'll be cool to see, how they come out with what kind of face paint they're rocking, what kind of gear. Something else I wanted to bring up so they were advertising this as Sting's Final Dynamite, but were they specifying Final Dynamite before his retirement? I feel like they were saying that kind of as well. Cause the reason I bring this up is because next week, AEW is doing Dynamite on Wednesday and then Collision on Thursday here in Atlanta. Mm-hmm. And I plan to go on Thursday for Collision. I may go on Wednesday for Dynamite as well, potentially, but because they're doing back-to-back nights instead of all at once. And part of me is wouldn't they, because they kind of announced the Atlanta thing a month ago. It was a pretty fast announcement. So my initial thought was, oh, they're coming to Atlanta because Sting's final match is going to be at Revolution. And then that next Dynamite, they'll do the big Sting tribute in Atlanta so I just want to throw that out there too, that I've had actually a couple of people hit me up that live locally that are like, is Sting not going to be at AEW next week? And I'm like, well, I mean, I think he would, but they're advertising this is the last Dynamite. So that was just a little confusing. I just want to throw that out there.
So Jeff Eller Driver in the chat says, Tony said he may show up every once in a while. That's basically what it is it was his final Dynamite as an active wrestler. So it is very possible that, they win on Sunday and then he shows up on Dynamite on Wednesday, because then you got to vacate the tag team titles, or you got to find a new partner for Darby or whatever it might be. Maybe, I don't think they're going to do an angle if the Bucks win. I was going to say the Bucks win, do a big celebration, Darby and Sting crash that, but then you're almost trying to set up a rematch, and that's not going to happen. So being in Atlanta, you would think he would do one more appearance there just because it is Atlanta. That's where he spent a good chunk of his career. That's where he really got over. So yeah, now that makes me believe they're going to win, honestly, on Sunday. Is like they come to Atlanta, they do a big kind of send off for Sting, decide what they're going to do with the tag team titles, which is either could be Darby finding a new partner, could be Darby defending it by himself. I don't feel like Darby's the type of guy that's like, hey, I'm just going to drop these titles, and you know what? Good luck to whoever holds them next. It feels like Darby would just be like, I'm going to continue to carry on the legacy of Sting and just defend these titles by myself. And he loses. He doesn't keep them for long or anything. But but maybe he's just like, you know what? I'm not going to defend this title with anybody but Sting. I don't want to carry these titles with anybody but Sting. Here you go. Oh, and they do vacate them. There's some options there. I think the match will close on Sunday, win or lose. I think the match is closing. I don't think you can do the match and then expect anything to follow that.
Like Flair and HBK.
Yeah, but Flair and HBK wasn't it. I don't think it was the match that a lot of people were hoping for. Like, it was a fine match, but I don't know if the moment was as emotional as maybe they had hoped it to be. Maybe I'm misremembering because it was a long time ago, and now I have a depiction of Flair that, you know, it
was pretty emotional when it happened. That was pretty huge when it happened.
Okay,
but another better example, maybe the Shawn Michaels and Undertaker match that didn't main event WrestleMania.
Okay, but the one that did main event WrestleMania was the career versus streak match, and that should have main evented because everyone knew it was going to be good, and then it was an emotional moment.
Okay, Rock Hogan didn't main event, and then
Rock Hogan should have main evented as well.
But I guess my whole point is like I'm agreeing with you. I'm trying to give examples of like things that should have, like, if Sting and Darby don't main event, then you're in a situation like that where it's like Rock Hogan happens and then nobody cares about, Triple H versus Jericho.
So here's, Flair and Michaels. They did that match, and then the match after that was Beth Phoenix and Melina against Maria and Ashley Mazzaro. That was a cool-down match. That's what you're going to have for Revolution. Like, and AEW doesn't really do cool-down matches. They hit you with everything. Like, all their matches are quote-unquote bangers. So they don't really have any type of like cool-down type of match. But whatever you put after that is essentially slotted as a cool-down match, no matter what it is. It can be, like, I think Will Ospreay and Takeshita are going to have a great match. I think the crowd might come up a little for it, but they're not going to come up as much as they would if it didn't have to follow that. I think the best possible cool-down match is probably the All-Star Scramble, where you got like good people in there, but then you got guys like either Matt Menard or Magnus. I don't know how they're getting in this match, but sure. I haven't read the spoilers. I don't know who wins any of this stuff, but like you just got guys that are, people kind of care about, but it's not the best. It's not the biggest match on the card for sure.
Yeah, I order the scramble at Waffle House all the time too.
It's a tough spot for all the wrestlers too. Of like, all right, we're gonna go out here. We got to follow Sting, win or lose. We got to follow the reason why everyone's here. No offense to anybody else on the card. This show was sold on the back of Sting's last match. So we got to follow that. And that's a tough spot for anybody to be in. So I think it's probably going to close because of that. Just because you're basically telling people the next match is the cool down match instead of closing on a really high note with Sting's victory, or maybe a low note with Sting losing, but still an emotional moment with Sting. And then he gets, I'm sure he stands up, big standing ovation and everything. So he's going to get that ovation, win or lose. So yeah, I would close regardless of the outcome with Sting.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think that's the move. And the fans are going to go absolutely insane for this. And the Young Bucks are going to make Sting look incredible, too. I mean, Sting's already Sting, Darby's already Darby. Like, they're already, I'm already, like I just said, Sting's one of the best ever. And Darby I've been a fan of since, years before he was ever in AEW. I was pulling for him on the indie scene. And I've said it 1,000 times, just like so many others. Like, just the idea that, like, Sting and Darby were such a perfect match with one another, and the fact that AEW just went ahead and just gave us that for as long as they did. I just think that, it's a really special thing, like, to look back on whenever, years from now, when you look back at the history of AEW. Like, I think we're going to really appreciate Sting's run for, like, this handful of years that we had. We're going to be looking back going, dude, this guy, look at all the stuff this guy did at this age. And also, by that time, Darby will hopefully be an AEW world champion and stuff. Because that's the thing too. If let's say he holds on to the tag belts, maybe I don't know. They have the ranking system now and everything again. I don't know how it'll all work. Allegedly, right? And who knows how long that sticks.
They've not updated the rankings since it's been like 2 weeks now. So yeah. I think it's possible that it's not sticking at all. Like,
did you see the new Dynamite logo, by the way?
I saw what's alleged to be the new Dynamite logo.
Yeah, I don't know if that's real or not, but if it is, everyone was calling it the Power Rangers logo, and I was like, Will Washington, dude, I'm telling you guys, like, if you like Power Rangers, Will being in that company is for you, and and for me as well, by the way, because I love Mighty Morphin Power Rangers. But I don't know if that's a real logo or not. But that just came to mind when I was just thinking about that.
The last rankings were February 10th. We are almost 20 days from the last rankings that were released. So
yeah,
yeah. Usually there was immediately no consistency with it because they released it like after Dynamite, and then they went a week, and then they released it after Collision. And that was the last time they did the rankings, was Collision, after Collision on February 10th. And now we haven't had any since then. So yeah, the rankings are, they're allegedly back. The fact that they made a big deal out of it, and then we're like, the rankings are back. And then it's just like, all right, 2 weeks and they're done. Like, oh, well, you guys, they screwed up the graphic the second week too. They had people who said they moved up and they didn't move up.
Yeah. Well, the reason I brought the rankings up at all is just because I mean, Darby after this needs to be elevated up to the world title. Like, whether he wins the title or not, he needs to, like, and he has the history of Samoa Joe also. If Samoa Joe's still the champion, like, that's built in right there. And then even if, Hangman or Swerve becomes the champion sometime in the near future. Oh, by the way, I completely missed the Hangman announcement. What did he say last night?
Well, go back and watch it, Jensen.
No, say it. Tell me.
It was a swerve.
Okay. Well, I mean, it's already aired. You're not getting any spoilers. That's the one thing I missed. That's the one thing I thought I caught up on everything after I got back from DMBs. And that's the one thing I completely missed.
Okay. So. He came out and he said he was not going to be able to wrestle. He came out on a crutch. He said, I can't wrestle. I'm injured. And then Swerve came out and was like, you a pussy bitch. And I'm still going to win this title. And then Samoa Joe came out. Samoa Joe said, I'm going to beat you. This is a very bad recap of everything, by the way.
I like it.
Samoa Joe said, I'm going to beat your ass. Don't really care. And then as Swerve called Samoa Joe a former announcer wearing a poncho, Hangman hit him with the crutch, and Hangman is still going to wrestle. So it was a swerve. He said he wasn't going to wrestle, and then he is going to wrestle. So it's still a triple threat match.
And they're leaning like pretty much full heel now then with Hangman.
Yeah, I mean, Hangman was a heel at the end of the draw. Like, you could tell that was going to be the direction. Swerve is... The crowd still loves Swerve because of his entrance and everything, but even he reminded fans of, like, I broke into your house and, like, threatened your family. Yeah. So Swerve is still, like, kind of in between. It's tough to, like... It's tough to make a man a baby face when he's done that. Like, it's tough to make that guy a baby face. Hangman is definitely going heel. I think the crowd still likes Joe, but his actions kind of say heel as well.
That's what's so confusing is like none of them are really technically baby faces.
Yeah,
they're actually gonna be fire though.
Yeah, they're just, everyone loves them because they're really good wrestlers. But if you look at the actual like character stuff, you can point out stuff you like about certain guys and you don't like about certain guys, and it's very much shades of gray type thing. We've had the pure babyface discussion a million times. We're not gonna rehash that stuff.
Sure.
To me, I think Joe is the babyface in this match. That's the guy where I'm like, all right, this is the fighting champion who is like, all right, sure, let me bring on whoever. I'm gonna beat their ass. But even he was like, it was a draw. Neither of these guys deserve a title shot. Get them, both of them go to the back of the line. Yeah, so it's a weird dynamic. The match is going to be great though.
It is.
Hassan says Swerve is a criminal. Hangman is the good guy. No one can convince me otherwise. Like, that's fair. Honestly, that's very fair. But Hangman's actions right now are a little dickish. He's kind of being a jerk. How would you lay out this match? Like, who do you think wins this match?
I mean, I probably have Joe retain just because, like, I really, we've talked about it before, but I really like him being just whether he's a heel baby face in between, it really doesn't matter to me with Samoa Joe, to be honest, because if his character is, I'm the world champion, line him up so I can knock him down. Just the whole reason the rankings are even back at all is because I just need to know whose ass I'm going to kick next, like who deserves the ass kicking next.
Samoa Joe should come out and cut a promo on the rankings. He's like, I asked for these rankings to come back, and you did it for 2 weeks. This is disrespectful to my title reign that you did it for 2 weeks, and now we're 3 weeks, and we don't have any more rankings. This is bullshit.
Yes, and I know that I see it in the chat as well. But Swerve, it's one of those things where Swerve definitely should be the AEW World Champion at some point very soon. It feels like. So if he were to win the title, I'd be happy with that. And the timing would be really good, I think, because you don't want him to get into the worst thing you can do to somebody who's really over in wrestling is have them lose so often or do something so often that the people just stop believing in them. And you just don't want that happening to Swerve. So like, you don't want to see him lose for the title over and over and over again. And then eventually, if he eventually does do it, it might still be cool, but it just doesn't mean as much because maybe it took him, 2, 3, 4, 5 tries or whatever. And we probably should just won it on the first or second try or whatever. But so like, I could see that honestly. And I highly doubt they're going to go with Hangman. And obviously Hangman's a former AEW World Champion, but similar to the Young Bucks, I'm very interested in Hangman's character currently. Like I do like the idea of him being a full on heel, even though it's similar in certain ways to like Drew McIntyre, who I absolutely love, because McIntyre he's just going out there and spitting facts and people just don't like what he's saying. But like, Drew McIntyre doesn't come off like a heel to me at all. Outside of his delivery, like how he's saying stuff, but the substance of what he's saying is all facts over and over and over again. And Hangman, it's like Hangman has a total reason to be going crazy over wanting to get it Swerve with their history. Like, especially, I mean, the last time we saw the two of them in that, not the two of them wrestle, but the two of them in like that really brutal match where he hung him with the chain and everything. Like, I mean, this is like these guys have some real history with one another in like a really short amount of time. And when you add on the family stuff with Hangman that we were talking about with sort of breaking in and all that, in real life, if there was a guy who did that to my family or something like that, and I had to see them at work every day and they were getting cheered over it, that'd make me crazy too. You know what I mean? Like, it's actually, it's understandable. So, and in movies and stuff, you don't really care morally how a lot of these guys like get their revenge. You know what I mean? You might have to do some stuff that isn't, like people are going to go to whatever lengths they have to get back at the bad guy. So, like, in a lot of ways, like, I don't think Hangman's really a heel at all, but maybe once again, the delivery and how he's doing this is heelish in a wrestling sense. But either way, I'm legitimately cool with any of these three guys being the AEW World Champion. But I will agree. I think Swerve's time needs to probably happen soon. But honestly, like, if it was me right now, I'd keep it on Samoa Joe. And this is coming from somebody who, like, I definitely didn't expect Samoa Joe to be the one to beat MJF for the title. I really didn't see that coming. But now now that we are where we are with this, I want to see Joe with the title longer. So, but it's a good problem to have. Three guys that I would like, all three that I'd be fine with seeing as the world champion for completely different reasons.
I would keep the belt on Joe. I would probably keep the belt on Joe forever at this point. He's been great in his short little reign as champion, but Samoa Joe's great. Basically everything he does. Swerve's probably going to win the title at some point. I hope they, like you said, don't miss the moment with him. And that's a very real possibility with all the people that are coming in. Because now you're thinking like, well, Ospreay's got to win the title at some point. Okada's got to win the title at some point. Maybe Danielson gets a run before his full-time run wraps up. Like, they got a lot of guys who you think can be, rightfully so, the world champion. And it's very possible if they don't do Swerve within the next few months, when do you capitalize and actually do Swerve? Because you risk the audience like elevating somebody else. And right now, Swerve, they've elevated Swerve, and you got to capitalize on the moment when it's there. Doc Slacker says, my only beef with Swerve winning at Revolution is I prefer you do it in one-on-one rather than through I completely understand that. I think there is a story to be told of Swerve pinning Hangman, and Hangman, like, that being Hangman, they're just a guy he can't beat. And then you can call back to that a year, 2 years later. That's a very long term, and you're basically counting on those guys being there for a while. But Hangman's locked into a long deal. Swerve's locked into a relatively long deal. I don't think he really has aspirations to go anywhere else as of right now. So you're counting on them to pay that off in a couple years of like Hangman working his way back up to face Swerve at some point. But that being the guy that just Hangman can't beat, then you can do Swerve and Joe in a singles match, and Swerve can beat Joe and prove himself and really solidify his title reign, and then whatever Swerve's going to do with the title. I think that's a possibility. It's also possible that Joe wins, Hangman loses, and you still do Joe and Swerve in a singles match, because Swerve says, like, you beat that dude. You didn't beat me. I beat that dude too. So there's a way to go with this. But I think Joe's going to retain. That's my ultimate call. I think Joe retains.
Yeah, I'm with you. But I think everything you laid out these are all realistic possibilities. The other thing that's always like in the back of my mind right now is Wembley for All In. That's like 5 months out. And Ospreay's obviously going to be involved in the world title for that. Like, whether he's challenging or he's the champion already, there's no way they're doing Will Ospreay in Wembley this time around, and it's not for the AEW World Title, in my opinion. So, who would you, I guess, rather see? Like, let's just assume Ospreay's going to challenge for the AEW World Championship at Wembley. Mm-hmm. Would you go Swerve Ospreay or Joe Ospreay?
I don't know if either of them are the champion by the time we get to Wembley. I think that by the time we get there, I mean, this is August. There's a lot of time between now and Wembley.
But 5 months, you think AEW is going to like hot potato the title multiple times in 5 months?
I don't know if it's really hot potatoing. I mean, they do prefer their longer title reigns. It could just be one title switch, though.
I guess true. It could be someone else beating Samoa Joe outside of Hangman or Swerve, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know if it's going to be either of them. My more likely guess is Joe. It feels like it might be Joe over Swerve. But I could, like, MJF is going to come back. He's going to get somewhere in that picture. They might, I don't know when MJF is going to come back. I don't know when Cole's going to be healthy. They might just run back Cole and MJF, obviously not for a title, but they might just run that back at All In and just pay that off a year later. I don't know. There's, Okada's coming in. You got to factor him into the whole picture as well. And there's guys who can just be elevated in the next 5 months because the crowd just really gets behind whoever it might be. I hope the best for Kenny Omega. If Kenny Omega's back, he's going to be slotted, you would hope, somewhere in here as well. I'm not saying this is going to happen, but Drew McIntyre, if he does become a free agent, if he does come to AEW, he's a big player that's going to be inserted right into that picture. I mean, you headline with Will Ospreay and Drew McIntyre. I don't know if that's what they want to do, but like it's a big match. So many things can change in the next 5 months. I do agree with you that Ospreay is probably going to have a big role, and a world title match makes a lot of sense. But the world title picture could be all over the place by the time it gets there. If you're asking me, laid out right now of like what we kind of know and take out the X factors of just professional wrestling, I think Ospreay and Joe's a really good world title match. And Joe having a very long reign from World's End to All In, I like that. I just don't know if that's how they're gonna go with Joe with the title. I just don't know.
Yeah, I'm totally with you. All great options, though. I think they're probably going to do Danielson and ZSJ again at Wembley, right?
They might do. I think they wanted to do Nigel last year.
Oh, right.
And I think Nigel keeps building this thing on commentary.
Yes. Talking trash.
Yeah. So I think if Nigel is good, I think that's the match they still want to do. I think Danielson definitely wants to do it. I think Nigel wants to do it. I'm sure the company wants to do it. Danielson and Zack Sabre Jr. might be a Forbidden Door match. I think that's where.
Yeah, that's the move. You're right. If they can get Nigel to do Nigel and Danielson at Wembley, that's definitely the move. And then Forbidden Door you can do because their first match was at Wrestle Dream, wasn't it?
Yeah.
So it was Wrestle Dream. Then sorry, clear my throat out. Give me just 1 second.
Yeah, it was Wrestle Dream, and then it was a New Japan show. Now at Forbidden Door, it basically because they both said like neutral territory. So if it's an AEW New Japan joint show, that's I guess what you would consider neutral territory.
At first, I wasn't sorry that I apologize, y'all. I know some people kind of complain about like my voice sometimes when I do these shows because of the nature of my job. This will get a lot better because I've got my promotion at my job, and I'll be way less on the phones soon. But I'm still transitioning over. My pay has already changed, though. I've already got my raise, like it's all good. But because of my job, I do so much talking, and especially in the mornings, my throat is just like, it takes me a minute to I drink a lot of water. Maggie was asking what this water bottle is. I'll drink like an entire one of these like in the morning. I mean, so sorry, y'all. I know it's super early. I get congested in the morning and stuff. So I apologize for that. If y'all have to deal with that with my voice and my throat and stuff sometimes. But that all said, I completely forgot that. Well, I shouldn't say forgot. For a second there, I was thinking that the first ZSJ and Danielson match was Forbidden Door, but since it was Wrestle Dream New Japan, then you Forbidden Door is the perfect place to wrap that up. And the reason I asked though is because if Nigel isn't ready, I guess if you wanted to put the title onto Danielson and do Danielson and Ospreay at Wembley, that'd be humongous. That'd be awesome.
I think you got to do a Danielson and Ospreay match at some point before this full-time run is over. I think you'd be really missing the boat if you don't. I think if Kenny's back, I think you got to do Danielson and Kenny because you never really wrap that up. There's a lot of matches on the table still for Danielson that you got a limited amount of time to kind of do. And, we talk about different X factors of things can change, injuries, people could just, leave the company, whether it's a contract, whether it's unhappiness, whatever it might be. You got to capitalize on these things while they're there. You got Danielson full-time until September. You better give him and do everything you can to give him the top matches that you can get for him before you do miss the boat on some of this stuff, because you've kind of already missed the boat on some of it with people leaving and just not being in the company anymore, or injuries and things like that.
Yeah, I mean, I'll never forgive Tony Khan or whoever I need to blame for the fact that we didn't get Sting versus Cody in AEW. That makes me so upset. Speaking of possible missed opportunities, Danielson versus Kingston this weekend. Do you think Danielson wins the Continental Crown?
Not after last night. Like
he really, I mean, if he does after last, I mean, he really, yeah. Getty's really got to get the win out, I guess, after the way he went out last night.
Yeah,
I love the Diaz brothers. Like, wow, when Danielson does like the triangle chokes and he puts him like the Nate Diaz when he does the flash. That's so inside baseball to like MMA fans like myself, but so badass for a professional wrestler to do that. I guess you're right. It makes Kingston look like kind of a loser if he goes out like he did last night, then loses again this weekend.
I mean, I thought that Danielson was gonna win, but now I'm like, oh, after last night, he just tapped him out or made him pass out, and that was that. So I don't know if. But maybe Danielson is like, because Eddie Kingston did beat Danielson in the tournament. Danielson beat him during the round robin, and then Kingston beat him in the league finals. And, Danielson's basically called that a fluke. And he's like, he can't actually beat me. Maybe that is the story of like, that was just a fluke. And otherwise, Kingston can't beat this guy, which is fair, which is a fine story. But I am hard pressed to believe that, like, yeah, Danielson's going to beat his ass in this tag team match and then beat his ass again in a singles match. But maybe that's a story. It's like, hey, that was a fluke. He caught Danielson on a bad day. When they're both healthy, when they're both ready to go, Danielson's just a better wrestler than Eddie Kingston, which is fine. A fair story.
The stipulation is that he'd have to shake hands if Danielson, if Kingston beats Danielson, right? So
yeah.
I mean, I feel like that's also part of not even just with last night, but the entire like feud between Danielson and Kingston in their history. It feels like at some point Danielson's got to shake his hand, right? Like, I mean, otherwise it's like you've been spitting in this dude's face over and over and over again. Like, you're just never going to show this guy any respect. Like, you got to give him some credit at some point, right?
I do like the story that
I do too.
Maybe Danielson wins and then he's like, you know what? You still earn my respect. And then he goes to shake his hand and then he still kicks him in the dick.
Yeah. Oh man, you're still a bum.
Yeah. Or he taps him out or makes him pass out, knocks him out, whatever it might be. And then Kingston's just like laid out. And then Danielson just grabs his hand and shakes his hand while he's like out cold. And then he just goes to the back. There's things to do. Like, I want Bryan Danielson to win just because I want Bryan Danielson to win every match. He should win all the titles, but I don't know if he's going to. Really don't.
I do think he definitely needs like a title at a singles title at some point pretty soon in AEW though. Like, I feel like we got to get that before he's done full time. Like, cause that's when did he say he's wrapped? When's his final match going to be?
I'm most likely September, October. I think he might do Wrestle Dream last year was in Seattle. I don't know if it's going to be in Seattle again this year, but that might be his last match. That or what's their, I guess September, their big pay-per-view is All Out because that's early September. Maybe, yeah, Wrestle Dream was the first weekend in October. I would say that's the targeted date is Wrestle Dream.
Yeah. And I kind of look at that date as, the last chance we'd probably have for him with like a title, even though he's going to stick around and still wrestle here and there, it sounds like. But he's also kind of on his HBK post 2002 title run kind of run too, where like I've said it before, but for all we know, Danielson is backstage going like, I don't give me any titles. Like, I don't need, like, I'm already so over. You don't need to do this.
I 100% believe he's saying that he loses probably more than he should as a top guy like that. But I would have put the world title on him last year at Revolution when he faced MJF. That would have been my call. But
yeah,
I'd still put the world title on him. He should just come out and beat Samoa Joe this week.
They're in a similar position where no matter what happens to either of them, they're always going to be credible to be the world champion at any point.
They should do Joe and Danielson. That's another one where it's like, it feels like you got to do this match before you can't do this match. Like, what are we doing if we're not doing Samoa Joe and Bryan Danielson one more time? Like, it just feels like you should do that one.
Do it on a Ring of Honor pay-per-view. Get people to actually go blow that one up through the roof. Just give us market a Samoa Joe, Bryan Danielson, Ring of Honor main event. And I think the entire wrestling world would tune in for Ring of Honor for one night.
I mean, if you want to pop a Ring of Honor pay-per-view, there are worse ways to do it. That's for sure. And we haven't had a Samoa Joe, Bryan Danielson match one-on-one. I'm looking this up. I don't know. I doubt they ever faced. They apparently faced in a dark match. It's at a live event. They had a couple of dark matches at live events. Otherwise, we have not had a Bryan Danielson Samoa Joe one-on-one match since ROH 2006, the cage match. So there you go for the world title.
Gosh.
Yeah. 2006 was the last Joe and Danielson televised singles match.
Were the other matches, was that in WWE live?
Yeah, it was WWE dark matches. Yeah. Those were 2018, so it wasn't too long ago, but no one really saw them.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah, that's wild to think it's been that long. What else on this pay-per-view looking forward to?
Daniel Garcia should win the TNT title.
You think he's on the way out of AEW?
No, I don't. I think he'll stick around. I think he likes AEW. I think he's, they definitely see something in him coming out of the Continental Classic. They're doing more with him. I don't know where he fits in WWE. He'd be very good in WWE. I just don't know if it's a weird look to see him in WWE. I don't know. I can't put a spot on him there. Where in AEW, I see it. I always love when guys go elsewhere for the unknown factor of it. Like Drew, it's tough for me to see where Drew kind of fits in AEW. I don't know what that looks like, but I want to see it. So kind of same boat with Garcia. I don't know what it looks like. I'd like to see it, but because I don't know what it looks like, it's hard for me to actually process it happening.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. And I would hope that Garcia would stay with AEW longer term, because I think he has a really, really bright future there as well. I just know there's been a lot of speculation. People are kind of trying to figure out if he's going to stay or not, because he's got, I guess his deal's up soon, maybe, or something.
He said it's a contract year. He didn't really say when it's up. It could be September. We don't know. So, and for all we know, he could have resigned, and he just won't say it.
True. And then I'm also thinking, just real quick for the pay-per-view before we move on, I'm hoping Orange Cassidy retains the Intercontinental.
I don't think he is.
I think Roddy's going to win. Otherwise, what are you doing with this group? I already am super down on the whole Undisputed Kingdom thing, but it makes him look even dumber if Roderick Strong can't win this title. So I think he's going to win that one also. I think Ospreay and Takeshita is going to be really, really good. I got Ospreay in that one.
Don Callis is going to win.
Don Callis wins that one. And FTR and the Combat Club should be really good. We got a good taste of that last night. I think I'll probably go FTR on that one, but it's going to be a banger. I mean, every match on this show is going to be really, really good. Tony Storm and Deanna is going to be good. This is top to bottom should be a good pay-per-view. I mean, there was oh my gosh, what was it? I don't know if it was World's End. There was a recent, I'm so bad about remembering the names of which pay-per-views things happen on, but there was a recent AEW pay-per-view that wasn't good. It just wasn't good. And it might have been, it was World's End, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, I think World's End was fine. But the Full Gear had that MJF Jay White match that was very overbooked, and people are like, I don't know about this. But Full Gear, there's always going to be something good, because Full Gear had the Texas Death between Hangman and Swerve. But otherwise, that show, I don't remember too much from that, if I'm being honest. World's End was obviously the big MJF angle. I thought the MJF Samoa Joe match was good. There's always something good on these AEW pay-per-views, though.
Was World's End the one where it was supposed to be Swerve versus Keith Lee, and they did Swerve versus Dustin, and Dustin got way too much in.
Yeah.
Just kind of, and listen, I love Dustin, obviously. I'm obviously a big fan. I got my My Rhodes a Riot bracelet on right now.
Yeah, I saw that last night. I saw that you posted that on Twitter. I was like, look at this guy.
Part of the, when you're part of the Nightmare family, we look out for one another. So I appreciate you, Tiffany. If you see this, very much appreciate the bracelet. And I've actually got a Cody Rhodes signed promo on the way from Gunner, who hooked me up with one of those from a live event. So we're all looking out for one another. You know what I mean? By the way, for any of you out there who collect trading cards, just real quick, I'll let you know. I bought a box of the new. They're the WWE Donruss, I guess Elite style or whatever. I paid $225 for a box of these cards. Okay, like $225. You get, I think it was 12 packs of cards. That's a pretty big card purchase. Usually, I buy blaster boxes, sometimes hobby boxes for like 75, 100 or whatever, 125 maybe. This time I go, all right, you know what, dude, just do it. I was like, Gunner, just because Gunner works at a card shop, so I was like, all right, man, you just got the packs literally just came in. It was kind of like I had first dibs at these before they are gone and before they start going up in value. So I bought one for $225. Got a signed 1 of 10 Roman Reigns card, which is like insanely. I mean, like, so I got super, super, super lucky with my box. I got a lot of other really good cards. So the one silver lining is if Roman Reigns somehow defends over Cody Rhodes and keeps winning, then my card will continue to raise value. So at least I have that. But for those of you who are into trading cards, these new WWE cards are pretty badass. So I want to throw that out there too. Had a lot of luck, and a lot of it was because of my friends in the Nightmare family having my back and telling me when things are coming in. So yeah, just want to throw that out there too.
Shines on Spurs sent a super chat, says, overall, thought last night was a really fun show. It's crazy how much Jericho and Ric Flair ruined the vibes for me. Shame that wasn't their last Dynamite. Yeah, when Flair came out, I was like, this sucks.
I mean, I don't think he's going to be like that involved after Sting's not there. I know they have like the woo energy thing or whatever, but yeah. Like, I don't think that people who don't want to see Ric Flair on their TV screen, I don't think they're going to have to deal with it for too much longer. I don't think. Because I don't know how he really fits into AEW after Sting is not involved. It just doesn't,
he didn't really fit in AEW with Sting's involvement. He just came out there and that was it. Like, he's added nothing to Sting's actual presentation. They tried to insert him over the past few weeks with, let me talk to the Young Bucks. Oh, we swerved the Young Bucks. And they just immediately took him out. It was like, okay, for all that trouble, they just got poked in the eye and had to sell those punches. Like that's it.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. Like there really is no point in him being involved with AEW at all right now in any capacity. But I think that anyway, there's no point in continuing to really talk about that. Yeah, we're gonna move on to next topic.
All right. AEW Revolution, everybody, this Sunday, live only on pay-per-view.
I need to finish the story. In the WWE, the story never finishes.
Cody Rhodes has challenged The Rock. That happened at Elimination Chamber, which was a largely skippable show. If you could watch it, with fast forwarding, it was good. The matches were fine, but then we had the Grayson Waller effect, and Cody said, Rock, fight me, bitch. We'll see if Rock actually wins. What do you think? Is it they gonna do Cody and Rock singles match?
I mean, at some point, I think we'll get that. But I mean, they really seem to be leaning into this tag match for night one, and we talked about that a lot. I highly doubt they're going to do Cody and The Rock night one-on-one, and risk any kind of injury. Like, I mean, you can risk injury in a tag match too, of course, but obviously I was pumped up hearing him call it The Rock, because just the idea of Cody Rhodes versus The Rock one-on-one is amazing to me. And, we're so kind of locked in on the idea of The Rock versus Roman Reigns, and we will absolutely get that at some point, probably next year's WrestleMania, if I had to guess. But I don't think The Rock's only going to wrestle one time ever for the rest of his life, now that he's back involved with the WWE in the capacity that he is. So I think we'll probably get the tag match at WrestleMania, but I do think that at some point, I think we will get Cody versus The Rock 1-on-1. But at that point, maybe Cody will already be the world champion. It makes more sense to do Cody and The Rock. Like, I guess maybe like storyline wise, it makes sense for him to do it before Roman. Because I'd imagine, well, it depends on where they go with The Rock and Roman after all this. Like, who turns? Like, is Roman going to turn babyface because of this? Or is The Rock going to, like, he infiltrated the group and, like, he's a good guy, you know? Like, so it just depends. It really depends on how they go with that, because that's the trickle down to Cody is, like, you know what I mean? Because they're not going to have, like, a babyface Rock challenge a babyface Cody Rhodes for the WWE Championship later. Like, one of them would have to be a heel, I think, for the WWE to do that. So there's a lot of things at play, but I will say this. I really, really like, as a wrestling fan, that I'm guessing so much about all this right now. And these are all such great options. Like, I feel like this is the first time in a long time with the WWE where anything really feels possible, and they're really listening in a lot of ways, where it's like, you think we're going this way, we're going to go this way, but it's not going to be a swerve that pisses everybody off, that, you know, nobody wanted. It's a swerve because, like, they listened and, like, they're going to pivot and give us something better than what they were even going to plan before. So there's a lot of moving pieces with this Rock and Cody stuff based on The Rock's availability, him and Roman and all this stuff. But at the end of the day, to answer your question, I think that we will get The Rock and Roman one-on-one at some point, but I think at WrestleMania it'll be that tag match with Seth, Cody, Roman, and Rock, night one.
They should do Seth and Cody against Roman and Rock night one. And then Rock wins. He pins Cody. And then Cody cries and he just says, I can't compete night two.
Oh my God.
I'm sorry I let everybody down. I can't go out there and embarrass myself again. And then we get Rock and Roman night two. What do you think of that, Jensen?
Yeah, I think I probably might not ever watch the show ever again if that happened. I mean, that's obviously a terrible idea.
I don't know. I felt it was pretty good.
I mean, I could see maybe Cody getting pinned by The Rock potentially night one, just to, like, plant even more doubt that Cody's going to win night two, especially because if we get to a point where the bloodline is getting fought off by Cody's, you know, army of friends, his super best friends, and like if that's happening, and then, like, The Rock comes out and we're all like, oh shit, like The Rock pinned Cody last night, he's about to stop The Rock from winning the title right now, but, like, you know, Cody fights him off and still beats Roman or something. I could see something like that. It's such a weird spot to be in for a tag match if they're going to do this night one how we think it is, because for anybody to take a loss is going to just be weird, because, like, you really don't want to see Cody or Seth losing the night before they defend their world championship. You really don't want to see Roman. I mean, it's just strange to see Roman get pinned at all. I mean, we've only seen it. Jay pinned him in that tag match, and that's been it over the last, like, 3+ years. So, and then, like, I don't think The Rock's coming back and taking a pin right away in his first match in so long, but maybe he is. I mean, but I just don't see it. So, like, this is a really weird one to figure out booking wise how you're going to actually play this out with them defending titles the next night.
They should do the old Shawn Michaels Diesel bit where Shawn Michaels and Diesel faced Yokozuna, and it was supposed to be, I think, Owen Hart. But Owen wasn't clear, so it ended up being Bulldog. But then Owen ran out in the match and they pinned Owen. And then it was like, oh, this result didn't stand. They should do that. Solo comes out, tries to interfere, and Cody just pins Solo. And that's the closing of night one.
There you go. I know we've talked about it before, and I don't think they'll do it, but they still have the out with Damian Priest, technically.
That would be a way to. But how do you do it? He cashes in, and then he just pins Seth in the tag team match, and then he just wins the title.
It would have to pretty much be something like that, or right after the match. Well, actually, not right after the match, because this would be the way of getting out of anyone losing. You'd have to, and technically, it's like you could also go after Roman, technically. But I mean, that will obviously
Okay, so here's
No,
all right, instead of like Priest winning.
no.
No, I'm not going to troll on Cody. Instead of Priest winning, Priest just tries to cash in and loses, and then he just loses the tag team match, and that's how this tag team match ends: is Priest gets pinned.
Yeah, so that's actually the best idea of all of this. I'm not even joking.
That's so cowardly if they do that.
It
so
is
cowardly.
Or even if this would be like the ultimate like this once again. None of this is happening, so like I don't want people even thinking that like I'm like this naive, but like Priest could come out and because both no, you can't challenge for both world titles at one time with the briefcase. But what if he did something so stupid that was like he comes out and he's like, since Rollins and Reigns are both in the ring, he's like, all right, I'm challenging Rollins for the title. It's a triple threat. Just ring the bell. And then like Roman pins Damian to win Seth's world title.
I love this. Actually.
And now Roman's got all the titles for Cody to win night 2.
No, Cody shouldn't win the belt night 2. But I love Roman having all the titles. All right, here. This is trolling.
This is so
Priest cashes in, and he pins Cody, and then he just takes Roman's titles. He's like, well, these are mine. This is what I cashed in on. So these titles are mine now. And then we do Roman and Priest night 2. That's the main event. And then Roman wins and he gets all the belts back. Cody just doesn't wrestle night 2. He just loses to Damian Priest in a tag team match.
Oh my gosh. These are such bad ideas.
I think that the most likely scenario, if they do the tag team match night 1, like we all kind of expect and are speculating on, Cody loses to put the doubt for night 2, or Rock loses to kind of further a lot more long-term story between whether it's Rock and Roman, whether it's Cody and Rock, whatever it might be. I think one of those two taking the pin is most likely. I wouldn't have the champion lose. Roman like losing even in a tag team match one night before he's going to defend the titles doesn't make a lot of sense to me. Seth, I can kind of see, because Drew made good points of like, you're too worried about the bloodline. You need to be more worried about this title in your title, and facing me at WrestleMania. So him like losing because of that, and then having to face Drew, and then losing to Drew, because I do think Drew should win. I can kind of see that of like Seth just bites off more than he can chew by getting involved in the bloodline stuff. And then he also has to face Drew night 2. And it's a bad weekend for Seth Rollins. I can kind of see that. Roman losing is the least likely scenario. I think the dumbest scenario too, especially if he's going to lose the title to Cody.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I'm with you. I think Roman needs to stay on. I mean, basically, it's just weird because we're in this situation where these guys are going to be wrestling night 1, most likely. Also, like this was also such like an audible call, over the last few weeks to decide to do this the way that they're doing it. So it's gonna be interesting to see how it all winds up playing out. But yeah, I'm looking forward to Drew and Seth as well, because Drew winning the Elimination Chamber, I think that was the right move. I've just said it earlier in the show, and I've been tweeting about it nonstop pretty much. Is like outside of Cody Rhodes, Drew McIntyre is my favorite guy in the whole WWE. Like I like as a wrestler, as a character, as a person, from a believability standpoint, all the years he's gotten, with his being a real veteran at this point, everything. Like I think Drew's really, really, really damn good, and he's operating right now at the highest level he's ever been at, especially as a character. Like his ultimate hater stuff that he's doing right now is gold. Like this is so good. And part of it, yes, the people he's attacking, his ops are kind of my ops. So it's even the stuff he's going after Cody too. But the funny thing about it is he has been encouraging Cody to finish his story. Like, everything Drew's been saying is like, he might as well just be watching the spotlight and just saying what I'm saying half the time with this stuff. Like, and he just does it a lot better than I do, because he's great on the microphone, and he's Drew McIntyre, and he can actually go out there and do something about it. But yeah, I think that Drew needs to win the title on night 2 from Seth as well. Like if I've said it 1,000 times, if they're gonna have 2 world champions, which they shouldn't, they should just put it all on one person and just, if it's gonna be Cody, just have him on Raw and SmackDown. Like, he's the face of your company. But if you're gonna have 2 champions, Drew should be one of them for sure.
Yeah, I think Drew should win the title at WrestleMania. We don't know his contract situation. He hasn't resigned yet, according to Alex McCarthy, who I trust on the situation.
Mm-hmm.
So that doesn't mean he won't, but as of right now, he hasn't. And I don't think that should prevent them from putting the title on him, because Drew is a professional, will do good business as well. And depending on when his contract is actually up, he's advertised for events going into May. So I would assume he'll be around for that. I don't think they're going to advertise him without being pretty secure in that he's at least under a deal until then, or they can reach a deal by then. Because you can advertise anybody for those shows. And I understand Drew's a big selling point for these overseas shows, but WWE is usually good about doing due diligence on who they're going to advertise if they're going to be available, especially in a contract situation. I would put the title on Drew, though. I thought he should have won it at day one. I would have done a reign with him there. I definitely think he needs to win it now, because, you mentioned with Swerve of like, how many times can you just watch this guy lose? Like, I understand he's a heel, but he lost at the Saudi show, I think it was, at the end of last year. Then he lost on day one. You can't really have him lose again at WrestleMania. That would be the third loss. And it's just like, all right, dude, you've lost 3 times now in about 6 months. I guess a little bit more than that, but you're not winning this title. Let it go. And it's tough to buy into him after that. So I definitely have him win the title.
When he had, those are just for Seth's title you're talking about. He had the one in the UK, right? Where
that was for Roman's title. Yeah.
But that was
fine. That was
fairly
at
recent.
that point. That was, 2022. So like,
yeah,
okay. Like losing again 3 times, all to Seth, all within the span of like the Saudi show was what, October? So maybe November. So no, November was Survivor Series. It was probably, it had to be September, October. So yeah, then you lost the first day of January, and then you're losing early April. Again, that's 3 losses to the same person in the span of about 6 or 7 months. Like it's tough to buy into a guy after that.
Yeah, that's not a good look. I would imagine if he loses, he's leaving. And I'm not saying like that's like the factor of him like deciding to leave. I just feel like that's the writing on the wall. Like, if he loses, like then why would? Because the way that I see it right now is how things currently stand. Why would Drew leave? Like, why would he leave the WWE unless AEW is going to offer him so much money that he just can't refuse it? But given his position in the WWE and how hot the WWE product is right now, and the fact that like he could legitimately be like, if they have like 5 top stars in their company right now, he's one of them, at least for sure on the male side. They have some really like they're in a great position with their men and their women right now, because they have like so many like legitimate superstars on their roster right now that are really over. That Drew's one of them, and unless there's some sort of weird thing with like his pay and his contract that they can't figure out, I have no idea why he would leave right now. Well, this is like the best time for him to be in the WWE.
I mean, money is always going to be a deciding factor in this, and I don't know what they're offering them. I don't know what type of perks may or may not be in there, but you follow UFC closely enough, Jensen. They let these guys walk. Endeavor, like Francis Ngannou, didn't seem like he was making outrageous demands based on his position as the top heavyweight in the world, based on how much money UFC is making. And they couldn't come to agreement because they're like, nope, we want to pay you this much. You want more than that. Good luck. Go elsewhere. Like the Endeavor, it said all the time, this was before Endeavor purchased the company or made an agreement with the company to form TKO. Everybody's a spoke on the wheel, a cog in the machine in WWE. They're going to pay you what they think you're worth. If they don't think you're worth over that, they'll be like, okay, good luck elsewhere. So
yeah.
It wouldn't be surprising if they can't come to a monetary agreement and Endeavor's just like, all right, no, we think you're worth this much. That's what we're going to give you. Good luck elsewhere.
No, and you're right about that. And it not just Francis Ngannou. I mean, Nate Diaz, another, humongous star that they let walk off. I mean, a lot of it also has to do with like what are their motivations, like as wrestlers or as fighters or whatever. Like, Nate wanted to go off into boxing. Francis wanted to go off into boxing. They wanted to do like non-MMA stuff that the company wouldn't let them do also, which obviously I side with the fighters in these scenarios because like they should have the freedom, especially if it's a different sport technically, to explore that if they want to, especially if they're going to be offered millions of dollars to be able to do that. If someone's going to offer you more money, like, in Francis's case, way, way, way more money to box than to fight in the UFC, then I totally get that from a business perspective for sure on both sides, honestly. But I definitely side more with Francis and the fighters because like the UFC, the problem with what the UFC is doing to their fighters without going down this rabbit hole too much is they make so much money as a company that like it's pretty much been proven that like the fighters should be getting paid more, especially the ones that are like really bringing in pay-per-view. And Francis was criminally underpaid considering how much pay-per-view money he was bringing into the company. And just like where the rest of the money is going, like it wasn't going to the fighters. So I understand the discrepancy and all that, but and with WWE, it's true too. I mean, I don't know the circumstances of like everyone who's gotten cut by the WWE since Endeavor and stuff, but one of the first things that was really noticeable to me was like, Nick Nemeth and like, guys like that who have been with the company for a really long time, who made a lot of money, who weren't like the world champion. And in like recent memory, it was similar in the UFC. We talked about, when Endeavor came in and they started cutting, Chuck Liddell and all these guys who like were signed by the company, but weren't like actively fighting, but were promised jobs. But like that went out the window because it was about the bottom line. It was like, we're looking at a sheet of paper, how much money we're giving this person, how much money they're bringing back in. We have no emotional relationship with this person whatsoever. To them, it's just a name on a screen, and they just go, okay, we'll take the name off the screen, and then more money goes over here. And so they could see it like that with Drew McIntyre. It's possible. But I think if the WWE is smart, they'll fight to keep him on their roster because I think he's a very, very, very valuable asset for them to have right now for a lot of reasons. And also globally, WWE is such a global company. Drew McIntyre is a global international superstar. And he's in his prime right now. I think that would be it'd be a bad loss for the WWE to let him walk. But just like you, dude, if he wound up in AEW or something, I'm definitely interested to see what Drew McIntyre looks like elsewhere. But this just feels like the best time ever for him to be a top guy in the WWE right now.
Oh, Delayed Gratz saying Drew is already re-signed, multi-year deal right now. That's again Alex McCarthy, who I definitely trust on this. He was on In the Weeds yesterday. Everybody can go watch that interview if you would like. McCarthy gave more insight on Drew, and he said he hasn't re-signed. Again, I trust McCarthy on this. And then Delayed Gratz also saying pushing him is stupid. If he loses WrestleMania 40, that's an indication of where talks are going. I doubt they give him a WrestleMania match without a contract extension. Drew getting serious name cred just to walk to AEW. WWE learned from their mistake in 2019. I mean, did they? Because in 2021, they put Bryan Danielson in a WrestleMania main event without any type of contract agreement in place. And I understand he lost that match, but he was still main eventing that show. And then he was on AEW TV by the end of the year. So I don't think they did learn from their mistake in 2019. I think that they're going to book what they feel is sort of best for the company. They think Drew McIntyre and what he's doing is best for the company right now. I don't disagree with that. He's doing great work. I think it's a good faith act on their part to be like, hey, you're not around right now, or you're not technically re-signed right now, but you're hot. So we're going to book you. We're not just going to ice you just because you haven't re-signed.
And that's also going to more likely have him be probably more likely to re-sign because of the good faith that you're talking about. Like the fact that they're like still going with him. He's probably going to be like, these people like me. Like we don't,
and we don't know exactly when the contract ends, by the way. I don't think that's ever been reported. We know it goes past WrestleMania because there was injury time added. And he's been advertised for shows in early May. So I would assume he's at least around through May, through the middle of May, if they're advertising him for early May shows overseas. After that, who knows? For all we know, his contract could extend into July. And at that point, it's like, yeah, sure, you should have him in a WrestleMania spot, because by the time you get to July, a lot of things can change. Though I said this yesterday on In the Weeds. I think Drew should win the title. I think you should do Summer of Drew. I think Punk should be ready by then. Drew and Punk is a ready-made story, and Punk is just like, you gonna take that title elsewhere? Is that what you're gonna do? You think the grass is greener elsewhere? You want to go work Wednesdays and Saturdays with children? Is that what you want to do? I think it'd be great. It'd be hilarious.
That's
People
actually
hate
the move.
it,
That's the move. That would be. I love the idea of the Summer of Drew. And sorry, I had to sneeze there. I love the thing. The Summer of Drew. I don't have like a mute button. I have to like hit it on my screen.
Yeah,
it's kind of awkwardly like placed how my setup is. But but I love the idea of Drew McIntyre doing the Summer of Drew, and they have that built in for when Punk comes back. Obviously, that's going to be Punk's first big feud when he's back. Is going to be Drew. So yeah, I'm all about all of that.
Tommy Maynard sends a super chat. Says Seth takes the pen night 1, loses to Drew opening match night 2 for his story of a defeated, here to go on and rebuild. Then Bloodline is feeling. I don't know what the final part of that is, but we talked a little bit about Seth potentially losing night 1 and then losing to Drew night 2 and just basically biting off more than he can chew in the state that he is in. So I could see that. I think the only scenario that I can't see is Roman losing night 1, unless he's going to win night 2, unless he's just going to lose the tag team match and then he comes back and he beats Cody. I think, Jensen, I'll say this for your sake as the Cody fan. If Roman loses night 1, I don't know if I'd watch night 2. If I were
yeah. Yeah, no, I'm with you. I'm with you. And I will say this about we mentioned it before in this last point I'll make with Drew is that, delayed Gratz saying that, pushing him is stupid, putting him in the main event and all this stuff. And it looks like he's agreeing with, your point with Danielson. I think it's really more of an indication of Drew wins or not. Like if he wins, obviously he's staying. If he loses, there's a good chance he's out, because obviously, like if we're going to put the title on him, like WrestleMania would be the time to do it right now. So, Tommy with another super chat.
Okay. So the rest of the super chat, Bloodline is feeling confident night 2. Cody wins. Then 2024 is about Cody being the best, Bloodline falling apart to Rock and Roman at 41. Yeah, we've talked about that scenario many times of what they could do coming out of night 1 and night 2 with them. And then Tommy also says best show on Fightful. Let's go. We appreciate you, Tommy. Tommy's always here supporting us. We appreciate it. Thanks, buddy.
You rule. Thank you.
We gotta move on to our other spotlight.
Our product is what it is. We're going straight up the middle.
Mustafa Ali winning the X Division Championship at TNA No Surrender, defeating Chris Sabin in the headlining match. Jensen, what's your thoughts on the move with Ali winning the X Division title?
Really cool for him. I didn't realize, because he cut the promo after the match, that this is the first major singles, major title just in general in the last 20 years. I think he said.
Yeah, he didn't win a title in WWE, so
maybe not 20 years. But I'm not exaggerating with that amount of time. But it's been a long because he did. I went to look back and I thought that he'd won the cruiserweight title, but he didn't.
Yeah,
and I was like,
always in a lot of great matches in the cruiserweight division, but
yeah
he never was won the title.
There was a big push for him to become the IC champion and stuff, and it never happened, I guess. And really, when you think, because I guess what he's referring to is really his entire career. Really, he's never won a major championship.
It depends on obviously what you consider a major championship. The freelance world title was the last one he kind of he won. That was sort of a bigger title. So I would say that would be considered the bigger championship. But that was 2016. So
it's almost 10 years. And listen, I love freelance wrestling. I think they put on great shows. The current champion Storm is really good. I love Craig Mitchell and those guys. I'm a fan of freelance for sure. But obviously the X Division Championship, much bigger, more well-known championship in the world of wrestling. And that's just, I mean, that was honestly the biggest takeaway I had from Ali's win, outside of like the fact that it's really cool that he is the X Division champion and he's getting to pop up in so many companies, and he's so talented and so over right now. Like, and like, he's kind of going to show the WWE in a lot of ways, like what they missed out on, what they had for so long and weren't really fully utilizing. But that was really the big takeaway for me, was like, man, not even in the WWE, like, he didn't win anything in the WWE.
No.
And he was, people forget Kofi Mania was like, might not have ever happened if like, because wasn't it Ali that got hurt and then Kofi got put in like that multi-man match, and then like that was like the whole, I mean, in a lot of people when that happened, you know, afterwards, like the fan base for Ali was still there, and they were like, well, keep pushing Ali, like, y'all forgetting about Ali. We were behind Ali before he got hurt, like, and he just never, they kind of stopped and started some stuff with him. But yeah, I think it's absolutely wild that he never won anything in that company. It's pretty justified. His fan base was so pissed off for so long that he was being underutilized. Like, when you realize he never won anything in the damn company all those years. And Chris Sabin rules also. Like, he's you know, I was, the two of them are awesome. And Chris Sabin, Tommy said I'll put it the super chat up here, says Ali is great. However, Chris Sabin is underrated. I don't know I guess kind of, I mean, in the grand scheme of things, he might be, but I do think most people that know, you know, recognize Chris Sabin as one of the best singles and tag team wrestlers, especially like outside of the WWE, you know, for the last, you know, multiple decades. Chris Sabin's the man. So yeah.
Underrated is, you know, largely based on just your push with everything, because yeah, like you said, I don't think anybody, certainly in our circle, is like, oh, Chris Sabin doesn't get enough love. Like, you know, Chad Gable was most underrated in the Observer Awards this year. It's like everyone we know is like Chad Gable's one of the best out there, but you know, because he hasn't won a title or anything like that, everybody's like, oh, Chad Gable. Underrated might not be the word, underpushed maybe, but yeah, everyone loves Chris Sabin. I've never heard a bad word about Chris Sabin and his wrestling. Same with Chad Gable. So I understand what you mean by being underrated, though. And then Tommy also says some of these guys like Sabin and Shelley, who weren't great promos as young wrestlers, have emerged as veterans and great promos. It's wild. Yeah, I mean, I think Alex Shelley was an underrated promo. That was a guy you never heard about being like one of the top promo guys. But even before, I know people talk about the paparazzi production stuff with Kevin Nash. Even before that, he stood out as a promo to me. That helped elevate him, working with Nash and everything. But yeah, Alex Shelley was, to me, is like an underrated promo, because you never hear him as one of like the top promo guys on in wrestling.
Yeah, and Shelley's also one of the, similar to Sabin, but Shelley even more so, honestly, at least recently. Shelley is all over the independent scene as like the champion of like multiple companies, and like he's really, and he was the IWTV Independent Wrestling World Champion, you know, not too long ago and stuff. Like, Shelley's grinding still as a singles guy. And he also had to, I don't know what his personal life looks like, but I know he had, like, during the pandemic and stuff, like, he couldn't wrestle as much for like Impact because of his like actual shoot job. And then he was like working more indies and stuff. So, I mean, yeah, Shelley's a grinder. I'm a big fan of both Sabin and Shelley for sure.
Anything else from Ali?
No, I'm just happy for him. I'm happy that he's getting all this love right now, this respect from the fan base. Everywhere he's wrestling, he's putting on banger matches. He's starting to get some championships. Like, good for him. This is the kind of run you want to have after wanting to leave the WWE for so long and being pretty public about it. Like, he wanted out, his fan base wanted him out, and now he's getting to actually show out. You know, this is good stuff. Good for him.
Let's move on to our indie spotlight then.
I'm going to give a big motherfucking shout out.
Punjabi prison match is coming to Joey Janela's spring break. It is Jacob and Zilla Fatu against Violence is Forever, against Bollywood Boys, against Los Mestizos. It's the real Punjabi prison, says Joey Janela. I don't know what that means, the real Punjabi prison. I don't know what I'm expecting from this. Janela's spring break is a stupid. No. can the venue even like hold some nonsense like this? I don't know. What do you think is that this actual Punjabi prison is, Jensen?
Just 1 second.
Okay. So yeah, Janela made this announcement.
Sorry. No, we're good. I'll set this up. So basically, what wound up happening, this most recent GCW show was really tag team heavy. They had, I'm gonna miss some stuff, but the Bollywood Boys beat the Garbage Daddies in one of the matches. The Fatus defeated Los Macizos in one of the matches. Violence is Forever retained the GCW World Tag Team titles. And after they retained the titles, they got on the microphone and said, basically, any team, anytime, anywhere, like, will defend these titles. The Bollywood Boys came out and basically said, like, we lay claim to a shot at the championships because, we won earlier tonight over Alec Price and Cole Radrick. This brings out Los Macizos, who basically, they lay claim because I always forget, they're like either 3 or 4, I think 4-time GCW tag team champions. Even though they had lost earlier in the night, they're still the most decorated tag team in GCW history. So they come out, they want a shot at the titles. And then the Fatus come out because they had just beat Los Macizos earlier in the night. So it's like all these teams had a reason to want a shot against Violence is Forever. VIF beat Macizos for the titles as well. So yeah, the Bollywood Boys announced it's going to happen in a Punjabi prison. Joe Janela, as I think you were about to say, tweets out that it's going to be the real prison, which is just, I don't know how I doubt that it's going to, I don't know what this thing's going to look like. But I'm excited.
Real Punjabi prison. I might regret this, but Googling Punjabi prison, it's all WWE results. Like, it's a big structure.
Yeah.
It's not like they're, holding the spring break event in like a giant venue. It's always in a smaller kind of venue. Do you think it's going to be like the toy Punjabi prison?
Dude, it's going to be made out of like PVC pipes or something. Like, this thing's going to be. And listen, Kevin Q was marking out. I tweeted about the match, and like Q quote tweeted it right away with his own quote tweet from a tweet he had made in 2018 saying something like, my ultimate goal in wrestling is to get into Punjabi prison. So he's manifested this. And also I need to throw this out there because this is a name that I'm going to be using going forward pretty often, probably. Zilla Fatu is the actual son of Umaga, for people who might not know. And he vibes very similar to Solo Sikoa. Like, they do the tape thumb thing. They look very similar in a lot of ways. But I don't know if anyone's called Solo this or not. I might be saying something that like this already Joe people are putting out there. But Zilla Fatu, I'm calling New Maga from now on. That's the nickname, New Maga. Before people start stealing that, because this dude, he does the thumb, he does and he's Umaga's actual son. So like New Maga is Zilla Fatu, and I think him and Jacob, they're killing it as a tag team so far. Jacob had previously been teaming mostly with Juicy Finau in GCW, but him and Zilla I think is a much better tag team. Personally, I like Juicy as well, but totally different skill set, and I could see Zilla potentially coming over like the WWE with Jacob at some point as well. So yeah, I just want to throw that out there too. Punjabi prison, who knows? But I mean, I love it because it's spring break. This is going to be. I look forward to spring break more than like pretty much any show of the year. So I'm obviously pretty hyped to see whatever they're going to put together for a 4 tag team GCW title, Punjabi prison match.
Jensen, I know you got to run. I'll let everybody know where they can find you at.
Yes, I do. And we got 2 interviews for y'all that Jeremy's going to tee up for you guys here in just a second. 2 big interviews promoting two big shows this week. And I'll be dual screening IWS and SCI. So, and those are 2 different platforms. We got Triller TV Plus and we got IWTV. Use code Fight Talk on IWTV. If you guys want to follow me on X, it is Fight Talk _. And listen to the Fightful Select Weekender podcast. It's every Sunday, sometimes Mondays over on FightfulSelect.com. I'll probably record Sunday before AEW Revolution is my guess. I'll probably do it like Sunday morning or afternoon. I believe I'm going to join Tom Talks Rubbish again soon as well. Nice. He invited me on. I've done some shows with him in the past. So you may hear me on his show really soon as well. So just keep a lookout for that stuff. And good seeing you, Jeremy. Good seeing you in the chat. I'm going to go clock in for the shoot job.
Thank you as always, Jensen. All right, a couple super chats here from Tommy. YouTube is auto guessing my words. Sorry for the wild amount of grammatical errors. I hope TNA gets on a great network this year. Also, Ali is swole. What happened? Ali's always been bigger, and when he's in a company that's not WWE where everybody is super jacked, he stands out a little bit more. And I'm sure he took the 90 days to continue to work on himself and just get in even better shape. And he already was, but all these guys in WWE for the most part are in like fantastic shape. You just don't know it because literally everyone is in fantastic shape. And then they go elsewhere that's not WWE and you realize just how much bigger they are than a lot of guys. The thing I always say, look at Billy Gunn. Billy Gunn is still a monster in AEW. And then if Drew went to like AEW, you would just see how much bigger he is than a lot of these guys. Drew was like towering over Roman. And we think Roman is a gigantic figure because he is. And Drew almost dwarfed him. Like if Drew goes to AEW, they got to figure out some camera angles and stuff because he's going to overshadow a lot of people in AEW just on size alone. All right, guys, we do have 2 interviews for you today. We have Scott Hensley from SCI talking the SCI Rumble with this weekend, and Shayne Hawke, who's been on In the Weeds a couple times. He's talking IWS, their anniversary show this weekend, and their upcoming documentary. So we're going to get into both of those. We'll run the first one. We'll talk to Scott first, and then I will come back and set up the second one with Shayne, and then we'll wrap up. So get a longer show today with 2 interviews. Hopefully you guys enjoy both of them. Get a lot of wrestling this weekend. We appreciate you guys. Here is Scott Hensley of SCI.
Welcome to the Creator Spotlight here on the Spotlight on Fightful. I am Stephen Jensen, joined as always by Jeremy Lambert. And our guest today is a co-founder of the Scenic City Invitational, one of my favorite, if you want to call it territories, companies in all of independent professional wrestling. I've gone to many shows myself in person, great events all across the board. We are joined by Scott Hensley. Scott, how you doing, man? Thanks for joining the show.
Hey, I am great. Doesn't my background look exactly like I'm in a car?
It's amazing because we were talking about it before we started recording, but knock on wood, but your reception is better than a lot of people when they're just like at home on their Wi-Fi. So this actually, you sound great. You look clear. So we appreciate you doing this and taking the time while you're on your drive right now, man.
Yeah, I know I kind of look shadowy. So I'm a shadowy wrestling promoter.
Oh, yes. Well, Scott, thanks for joining us. Like I said, big weekend for you guys with the SCI. We've got the SCI Rumble coming up. I'm looking forward to this. Prestigious event every year. You guys have been doing this, I believe, since 2017, and pretty much everyone who's won this thing has gone on to become a big deal. So if you wanted to talk a little bit about the importance of this event coming up here on March the 2nd.
Yeah, with what we do, we really have 2 goals. The first one being to help local schools or organizations raise a lot of money. And the second goal being to elevate area independent wrestling talent. And we like to have sort of what we call like an all-star game where we bring in the absolute best independent wrestlers that we can find from the Southeast and beyond. And we like to put them head to head and see what happens. And with the Scenic City Rumble, I just think that it's one of those events where if you want to keep following along with what we're doing, then it definitely leads into more with the winner of the Rumble match getting a spot in our annual Scenic City Invitational Tournament in July, and they get to pick their first round opponent from the field. So it's also just a big spectacle in itself for just casual fans that want to come out and don't really know anything about the wrestlers, don't really care anything about the wrestlers, but just want to see people throwing each other around or flipping on their head or whatever. But it's a really fun event and something that I'm really glad that we get to do. We raised over $7,000 for this school last year, and I'm hoping we do better this year.
Man, awesome. Go ahead, Jeremy.
I was going to say just how the idea altogether came to fruition of like what made you want to be like, all right, look, I want to do this Rumble annually. I want to make it a charity event. Like, how did it all come together initially?
We started the tournament back in 2015. We partnered with a local promotion called Empire Pro Wrestling. And then in 2016, we had the chance to partner with a school. And so the other co-founder of the Scenic City Invitational, his name is Josh Massey. He wrestled as Ace Rockwell, but he had a lot of great contacts with coaches and schools. And so we were able to sort of link up with a school, and we realized, hey, we get this nice venue, we get a clean atmosphere that families feel safe coming to, and then we get this chance to help the community and raise this money while also presenting what we want to present. And so it was a really mutually beneficial partnership, and still is. I
love how, because you guys run family-friendly events, normally like out of high schools, and I like how, like, it's hard to explain where I'm kind of getting at if you don't know, if you haven't seen these shows, but like, you've had people like Nick Gage, for instance, involved, but he's able to like not only keep it family-friendly in front of that crowd in that venue, he's also the guy with the longest line of fans when the show's over. You know what I mean? And it's like, so it doesn't matter like who it is. You guys can bring in Matt Tremont. You guys can bring in even people you wouldn't think would be a quote unquote family friendly. As a matter of fact, I was live. I can't even remember what year this was. I was live in, I can't remember what high school it was. The name Saudi Daisy always just rings a bell to me. I don't know if it was there or not, but I saw Darby Allin versus Joe Janela like live, years before they became, TV stars. So if you can kind of speak to that also, I mean, just like just the fact that like, even though they're quote unquote family friendly shows, you're able to get like a wide variety of talent involved.
Yeah, we've been really fortunate to have a good eye for up and coming talent. A lot of that has been Dylan Hales behind the scenes. Big credit to him and his family for just being there from day one as big fans, and just having a platform that people want to see what we are doing. We have had so many good area guys. I think about guys like from the early days, like Jason Collins and Chip Day and Corey Hollis and Gunnar Miller and Joey Lynch. And, these are all guys that, sort of went on to have a little cup of coffee with WWE, with NXT matches and WWE matches and stuff like that. None of those guys are doing it for a living, but they are a firm foundation to build off of, and were a great thing to build around. We have Jaden Newman right now, who is on his way to Germany and will actually miss the Scenic City Rumble for the very first time. But it's so fun to have a platform where we are able to present people for the very first time. I just think about like festivals for bands, and you come for maybe a headliner or two or three that you recognize, and then you discover all these awesome bands that you've never heard of, or for us it's awesome wrestlers that you've never seen before, and they're on a bigger stage, they're in an environment where you get to see them and learn who they are and become new fans.
Well, so someone you just mentioned, Jaden Newman, if you could elaborate a little bit more on him just specifically, because he's someone we talked about this before. We've had him on the show before, as a matter of fact, to talk about this. But Jaden, y'all were running shows in the high school he graduated from before he was even involved in the SCI tournaments. And it was like a goal of his as a teenager to like get on the shows. I remember when he was too young to get into sup shows because they were like 18 plus or maybe 21 plus, and he couldn't get in. And what's it like to see the progression of him going from literally a fan in his own high school watching this product all the way to being a part of like the decision-making process.
Man, it's the most rewarding thing with what we do, to be the wind in somebody's sails and to give people opportunities that maybe they would not have gotten otherwise, or just to give them opportunities to work towards. And with Jaden, man, I am so proud of him. He actually used to come, it was his middle school that we ran at, and I can remember him and his friend actually asking for my autograph in the stands one time. He still has a hat signed by myself and the other co-founder, Ace Rockwell. He has an NWA Chattanooga hat signed by us. And, little did he know that one day he would be, the Scenic City Invitational champion, that he would be representing the Scenic City all over the world, going to WXW in Germany, getting, footage on the WWE network, wrestling some of the best wrestlers in the world with Timothy Thatcher and Jonathan Gresham and, a who's who. But he was a guy that, he was a kid that sort of got it handed to him early on with his grandfather buying him a wrestling company. And everybody is like, who is this kid that his grandfather bought him this company? And so we really made him earn it. And he always has stepped up. He always took feedback, and he always went above and beyond to just show that he was way more motivated than we were to challenge him, just above and beyond every time.
I got to ask about the final entrant in this thing, who was announced earlier. I guess it was last week at this point. Corey Ryan Forrester is in this thing. Please tell me how this came together.
So with I kind of went sideways there. I'm still upright. I promise.
Yeah, we can still hear you.
So with Corey Ryan Forrester, he's a guy that is sort of local to the Chattanooga area, even though he is nationally known, or more than that maybe. But a guy that I had seen around and heard and seen that he was involved sort of with some with Corey Ryan Forrester, local guy involved with wrestling. You can tell he's super passionate about professional wrestling, and was a buddy of Conrad Thompson. I'd heard him on some of Conrad's podcasts or heard Conrad mention him. And so I had shot him a message actually last year, and he did not get the message before last year's show. But he told me, I would love to try to be involved with something like this, just let me know next year. And so this is next year. It came around, and I asked him, and he said, I'm all in. And it's so different than just some random person that, might have a little bit of clout or something. With Corey, he's a legitimate fan who, he told me, I guess, Sunday afternoon, he said, this is really living part of my childhood dream. His dream was to be a stand-up comedian, which he's done. And he said, but really, he said, I wanted to be a pro wrestler. And so to get to be a part of helping somebody live their dream is just awesome. But we've had some people that we've partnered with before, with it being schools and coaches and different people. But to have somebody that can get 150,000 plus views on a really entertaining video where they are pushing your show and the important dates and parts of it, you can't ask for more than that. And we are so excited about the buttercream dream.
We were just actually talking, myself and Jeremy, for a second about Adam Priest. Would you like to speak on Adam Priest, any style Adam Priest, who, for my money, is one of the best in-ring workers in the whole world, and like the Southeast is known for quite some time. But he's going to be on the show this week, and I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah, Adam is he's one of the best wrestlers that you'll find anywhere. He earns his title of any style because he's willing to get in there with anybody and can have a good match with anybody. He is a scrappy guy that I mean, he makes it happen. He's a guy that showed up in 2017. He had wrestled a little bit in Alabama, and we actually had a Joey Mercury seminar at the Scenic City Rumble in 2017. And some little guy showed up and was he was very, I would say, I mean, you could tell his heart was really into it. And with, a lot of times with the seminar stuff, like people will show up in carloads and groups, and you really already kind of know who they are. But he showed up a complete unknown with people, even in the seminar. At one point, Joey Mercury was like, he said something about like, you're getting a little into this, aren't you, or something. Like, I just remember him commenting to Adam Priest about just how into it he really was. And he went to Alabama and evolved through New South, and was able to come back over to us with Scenic City, and has worked really hard down at Action. He's gotten some shots at AEW. I think he got maybe an NXT match or two. And he's one of those guys that every single time when he goes into the ring, he's going to have a good match.
Well, and a guy he's got a lot of history with, it was in a very similar situation, is Derek Neal, who he's wrestling this weekend. If you want to speak a bit on Derek, because he's one of those guys who, like, I remember, like, there was a real, people were, like, trying to get him, like, in the NWA at one point. Like, there was, like, a big, and I was like, they're crazy to not go for him. They went with, like Silas, Throwbelly Silas, and I was like, oh yeah, he makes, he fits in good. But I was like, man, Derek Neal, like, deserves more opportunities. And I think him and Adam Priest are going to be an absolute banger.
Yeah, so Derek Neal is a guy that I first saw probably back in, I would say, the late, I would say like 2000 and maybe 9 or 10. So I've been involved with wrestling since 2006. And so I was working for a promotion in Nashville called Saul, and Derek Neal was like a preliminary guy up there. He had done a lot of matches and stuff at the, USWO, maybe the ATL USWO, where they had it at the Stadium Inn. I think he had wrestled there a lot, but he was trained by a guy named Chris Michaels, who is a phenomenal wrestler. Another guy that has never really gotten his flowers in wrestling. But Derek Neal, like those guys, he gets better every single time you see him. And so to have him and Adam Priest, who I looked at their record, and I think they are actually tied at 3 wins each. They have fought 6 times before, so this is a rubber match for them. And Derek Neal, unlike my connection,
okay.
And Derek, and to be able to have Derek Neal and Adam Priest on your show, like I made a Twitter post about it, or a tweet on X or Twitter or whatever you want to call it. But I said, do you realize how good your show has to be to put those two guys against each other? Because every show that they're on, it's like, you're in with this guy because you play to their strengths. But to have a show as good as we have coming up with the Scenic City Rumble, we were able to put them together, and it's going to be beautiful music.
One last follow up for that. Just so I don't want to forget to ask, or run out of time. I know you've been, as you mentioned, you've been involved a very long time, like in the wrestling scene. How did you actually like get involved yourself?
I used to go to shows and write show reports, and wrestlers are so hungry for that feedback, and it's cool to see their name online in a report. And so I guess, there was actually 2 ends for me. The first one was in Georgia. I went to a show in Canton, Georgia. I think it was IWE was the promotion. It was run by Josh Wheeler, who runs AWE, or There's some other promotions that he's been involved with in the Atlanta area, but has always had a huge eye for bringing in up-and-coming stars and talent. So I went to one of those shows, and afterwards I had heard that a guy was from Chattanooga, Tennessee, and that guy was Ace Rockwell. So he told me he was putting on a pep rally or a show for a school, and asked if I wanted to come up and referee. And so of all things, like referee. So I actually went up and refereed for Abdullah the Butcher that night. And so that was my first night in wrestling back in 2006. And then I had helped out with some things, but then in 2007 or 8, somewhere in there, a guy in Alabama had actually asked me to come to his show in Scottsboro, Alabama, and it was Christian Haim, which is a guy that I think just deserves a ton of admiration and acknowledgement and respect for the path that he sort of paved out of the Southeast for wrestlers. He's a guy that was going to Chikara and IWA Mid-South and CZW and was wrestling that sort of Ring of Honor style that combined the like the Japanese styles and Lucha Libre styles and the not Southern wrestling styles. Christian Haim was not going to go in there and say, you know, he pulled my hair, he pulled my tights, and, you know, the old school shtick stuff. But he was a guy that he and like Cabana Man Dan, who is still wrestling, they were work rate guys, and they brought that style into the Southeast. So Christian invited me down to a show in Scottsboro, Alabama, Ultimate NWA, run by a guy named Will Owens, who trained Corey Hollis. But Will saw me there and he goes, "Hey, do you have any pants?" I said, "What?" He goes, "I need a ring announcer." He goes, "Do you have any pants?" I had cargo shorts on. I said, "No." I said, "This is all I have." So he yells at his nephew and he says, "Hey, give him your shirt." And so his nephew just takes off a collared shirt and throws it at me. And he goes, "Can you be my ring announcer tonight?" And I said, "I guess." He goes, "No." He said, "There's no guess." He said, "You either can or can't." And I said, "Then I can." And so from there on out, I was able to start ring announcing and learning the ropes down there from a lot of guys that had been involved with like NWA Wildside and guys that had at least worked with people that made money. And so I really got that pedigree of working with them. And then I was able to bring the Chattanooga guys down there to Ultimate NWA and then come back to Chattanooga for NWA Chattanooga, go up to work in Nashville for Saul, worked in Knoxville for Southeastern Championship Wrestling with Dave Marquez. And then I've done Georgia Premier Wrestling in Georgia with Daryl and Woody. They actually hosted AJ Styles' last independent match. So I got to do commentary on that, and it's been a fun ride.
I want to ask how you would assess yourself as a ring announcer being thrown into that first night with somebody else's pants and shirt, basically.
I got the feedback of stop walking around and looking around. But you know, I'm a decently well-spoken and educated person, so you know, and I had a suit later on, not that night, but you know, and I'm going out again.
No, we still got.
Oh yeah, you're fine.
You're still good.
Yeah.
So I mean, to have a suit and be decently well spoken and educated, I mean that gives me a little advantage, I guess. And you know, unfortunately, I am taller than like 90% of independent wrestlers. So I'm 6'1", but with shoes and with hair, probably 6'2" or 3. And so that's unfortunate, but it's fun.
I do want to ask on a follow up to that of memories from AJ Styles' last independent match in that show.
AJ is one of my all-time favorite wrestlers. I grew up in Middle Tennessee going to TNA shows, and afterwards I would hang out and try to meet people and stuff. And one time I did get to meet AJ, and he's just the most down to earth, nice guy ever. He's a real human being, unlike some of the guys that, you know, just can't get out of character, which some of them it's really like, it's admirable to some of them. And then some of them it's just really weird. But AJ is a good guy. He's a normal guy. And, so to be able to work that show, that last independent show with him, it's a dream come true. It really was. We didn't think he was going to show up. He actually was on a WWE show in California on Friday night before that show. And the promoter, Greg Hollander, who our Scenic City Invitational trophy is actually named after, he told everybody, AJ says he's coming, and I believe AJ. So we were like, okay, I guess we believe you and we believe AJ. And well, he's in California with WWE the night before. Really, Woody? Is he really coming? And true to his word, you know, he's a guy of character, and he showed up. You know, he had already debuted at the Royal Rumble. He was already on the road with WWE, and he comes back to honor that last commitment. And to be able to call his last match and to be able to see him wrestle Corey Hollis, which was a guy that I had, you know, started with at Ultimate NWA in Alabama. It was really cool. It was really special. And AJ addressed the crowd after that match, and he yelled at one of his sons. It may have been the son that just signed to play like college baseball, but you know, he yelled at him, and like his son was like watching like a phone or something. He wasn't even paying attention. So I just remember that. But the match was good. AJ's great, and what an experience.
That is kind of insane. I'm looking at the cage match. They always reference cage match, but yeah, debuts at the Rumble after doing all of his independent shots and everything in the UK. He does all that. Debuts at the Rumble, wrestles Chris Jericho on Raw, wrestles Curtis Axel on SmackDown, wrestles The Miz on SmackDown, then faces Corey Hollis at GPW. It's so weird, a little thing that you would not think of because he was on WWE television at this point. That is insane.
Yeah.
You know,
go ahead.
Sorry to say, you mentioned Corey Hollis, and I just wanted to follow up on this real quick because Corey Hollis, he's a former winner of the Rumble itself. Are you aware of the fan that he like got to never show back up to wrestling ever again? That people were calling the Hype back years ago. Do you know about this?
No, I don't.
So there was this fan who I can't take credit for the name, but like the name we would call him the Hype. It would be like Righteous Jesse and Steve McCash and like all the guys kind of involved with Suck. We all have this name for him called the Hype because this guy would come to shows, and it was happening for a while, and he would bring a replica NXT title belt and he was super into the show. He's the kind of fan you want to a degree, but he would take it way too far. Like when there was no noise happening, it was just nonstop chanting, and it got like obnoxious. And then he eventually tried to become a part of the show and got up on the ring apron during a match. And Corey Hollis basically punked him so hard that we never saw him again. So just want to throw that out there. There's going to be some people who hear this interview that are going to really get a pop from just even hearing the Hype being brought up. And we never saw him again. And we can all thank Corey Hollis for that. So I wanted to put that out there.
It sounds like Corey, yeah.
Yes. Another guy that means a lot to the Southeast scene. A guy who I actually, years ago, I attended his retirement match. It was a long time ago. Tank. Still out there doing it. Yeah. So can you speak to the importance of Tank in the SCI and in the Southeast? He'll be wrestling this weekend as well for you guys.
Yeah, it's just amazing that Tank is still going. You know, he still has gas in that tank, so to speak. You know, he's a guy. He started wrestling in 1996. He's wrestled Abdullah the Butcher, Terry Gordy, Demolition Axe, Big Boss Man. You know, all these old school Southern guys. And then he's also wrestled like the current crop of just superstars of Samoa Joe, AJ Styles, Seth Rollins, Claudio, Timothy Thatcher, Matt Riddle, you know, all these guys that are currently stars. And he is timeless. He goes through all of the ages. He goes through all of the styles. He is a guy that he can hang, and he's, he retired. And he took some time off, and like he's admitted that like he just wasn't enjoying wrestling. And I think it really changed around that time that he retired. That's about when sort of the AEW group sort of started coming to power and rising up. And I think some of the old school psychology went out the window, and I think intergender started more, and some smaller wrestlers were getting bigger opportunities. And I think I'm kind of putting some words in his mouth there, but he was not enjoying some of that. And I think he realized that he just loved wrestling, and he realized that there's still stories to be told with all of those things that I just mentioned. And, he came back, and, he's battled, since he came back, Timothy Thatcher reached out to the Scenic City Invitational and TWE asking to wrestle Tank. So that was the story last year, and a 100% true story from last year's Scenic City Invitational Tournament. But Tank is one of the pillars of Chattanooga wrestling and of Scenic City Invitational for sure. So to have him around and to have him come back and enjoy doing what he does and in great shape, he's still got a family and got young kids, and he's so young at heart. He really is. And he's working hard and still having good, entertaining matches. And it's awesome to see.
I want to kind of piggyback off of talking about Tank. I want to ask about Cruel and him coming and defending the title this weekend. And, he's back at MLW now. He's well-traveled, been on television, but having Cruel on the show.
Yeah, I mean, Cruel was a guy that the former Logan Creed. I don't think I'm spoiling any. I'm not spoiling anything for anybody there. But
I was one of the guys, Scott. Just so you know, when he was doing the Mads Kruger thing a while back in MLW, but he was doing the Logan Creed thing pre-Cruel. I was really like, he's not showing his full abilities on MLW like at all.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And Cruel is one of those things that it's just an evolution. He's always had the athletic ability. He's always had a really good wrestling mind. He is a great guy to work with. Actually, like at one of our, I think in between our Futures event and the night 2, he was walking around picking up trash. Like, I mean, he's one of those wrestlers that you want at every single show you do, because he makes everything that much better. He makes everyone around him better. And I think people see him, see what he's doing, and they want to achieve that. He has an action figure that's sold out now. And so, I wish him nothing but the best. And I am so glad that we can still get to have him on a local independent show.
Yeah, he's killing it everywhere he's at. He's can't miss, super talented. I love seeing all the success he's having with the IWTV Championship and everything. Like, I feel like he really deserves it. And even if you're not a wrestling fan, like, you see that guy for the first time and you're like, oh my God, who's going to beat this guy? And then you see him do like a tope suicida and you're like, wait, what? Like, he can do this too. So, I mean, I think he's a really special player as well. Someone else that I want to make sure to get your thoughts on, and someone who, I hate saying this because he's going to hear this, and I have a list of people like that I want to get on the show, and it's just like all a matter of timing, just like wrestling. It just like comes down to the timing. I have, for the longest time, probably the longest on my list has been Matt Griffin, that we haven't had on. That like I've almost every few weeks I'm like, all right, I'm gonna reach out to Matt, and it's just like, all right, well, maybe the next action show I'll reach out, then like something will come up, and I'm just like, can you speak on Matt? Because he obviously is a big part of what you guys are doing with the SCI now, and I think he does great stuff with action wrestling and just the whole Southeast in general.
Yeah, Matt Griffin was a guy that I probably talked to for the first time on MySpace in probably 2000, and I want to say 2002 or 3. Like, it was just like I added random wrestlers, and like I just would message guys, and like he was really cool to me, JC North from NWA Wildside. And then years later, we do the Scenic City Invitational Tournament, the very first one, 2015, and a guy named Al Getz, who is actually going into, I saw the Pro Wrestling Hall of Fame in Waterloo, Iowa, for his work with the analytics stuff that he does. I mean, just amazing stuff. So Al Getz showed up to Scenic City to film it, and his cameraman, Matt Griffin, JC North. So Matt has actually been at every single Scenic City Invitational tournament. He's a guy that I saw the passion in him. I saw that he was itching to get back in. He's a smart business guy. He has legitimacy, a former Marine, a former wrestler, a guy that, did some TNA spots, wrestled AJ Styles. He has so many credentials and things that you want to be involved with your show. And so we started sort of bringing him on board. And when some other partners went to the wayside, he was a guy that I said, Matt, I would love for you to be my partner in Scenic City. And fortunately, we have had a great partnership. He's about the only one that will put up with me for more than one tournament. I'll draw a timeline one time. Like if you go look at like Wikipedia at like bands that have a lot of different members, like it'll show a timeline of like, this guy's been in the band this long. And so I'll make one of those for Scenic City Creative one day. Not many people last, but Matt was a guy also that you mentioned, Action Wrestling, and that's what he runs now down in Georgia. And I think they have, because they run more often and they run such good shows, they've really surpassed what we do with Scenic City, because they run, more frequently, and I think they have just as big, if not bigger, of a platform than we do and following now. But Matt's killing it down there, and he follows the sort of what I wanted to do with Scenic City. And I remember him asking me, like, what do I do? How do I go into these schools? How should I approach them? I want to help raise money, and I want to give wrestlers a platform like you're doing. And so I sent him crowd pictures and was like, here's the formula, and here's what you tell them. And make sure they want to know that you have an insurance policy. They want to make sure that you're bringing safe people in, and you're going to protect people, and that that you're going to raise them money. And he's been able to do that, and it's been great working with him, and he's an absolute godsend.
Scott, as we start to kind of wind down here, the thing we ask everybody on this show is the coolest thing in your room.
Well,
if you can show us your connection, we'd appreciate it. Okay.
Let's see. So I'm a big fan of like old school territory wrestling, and I really enjoy going and meeting some of those guys and just hearing about basically like when it was real. And one of the guys that I got to go meet, I have a large autograph collection, but one of the guys that I got to go meet was actually here's Don Fargo. So if I can figure that out.
we had a clear. There we go.
Yeah.
Choose Scott.
So and I'm sure there's negative things that people could say about Don Fargo's lifestyle or choices or whatever, but he was one of those territory guys that just, it was real when he was doing it. Like he got shot and he had to run from biker gangs, and he did every gimmick in the world, and it's just interesting to meet those people that really lived that lifestyle back in the day. And so in looking around in this room, that's one of the cooler things, I think.
One last question I got for you. I guess it's a question. I just wanted to bring up, like, I know you guys have a lot of fans, like the Southeast scene. I know this so well, and I talk about this scene so often because I live in Atlanta. I lived in Nashville previously, so these are the companies that I have been paying attention to for a long time. I give guys like Dylan Hales a lot of credit as far as like getting me back. Like, I've always been a wrestling fan. I was never one of those people that like stopped watching it. I've always been into it, but my interest was really waning, a handful of years ago. And like a lot of the talent that you guys would find through the SCI, through Action, through SUP and stuff, really, really, really helped me as a fan. Like, and it just reinvigorated to the point where I honestly don't think I'd be sitting here doing anything with Fightful at all if I hadn't have like gotten in on, becoming a fan of this scene years back. So I appreciate it a lot, which all you guys do. And I know that you guys have a lot of loyal fans, people that will travel from state to state for these matches and these shows. You mentioned Conrad Thompson earlier. I've seen him live at Scenic City before, live in the house. But I think maybe your biggest fan might be Ben Boston Nuga. I see him in everything. I've met him in person. I've been around the two of y'all together in Atlanta before at GCW. Can you speak on Ben and I guess just like the hardcore, like the loyal fans that you guys got?
Yeah, when I think of the heart and soul of like Scenic City fandom, I think of Papa Hells, I think of Ben, I think of Eric Crowder, I think of Chuck and Ashley from TWE, and we really wanted to not just do a one single promotion that just does wrestling. We wanted to create like a mini territory. We wanted to create something that people can follow along with and that feels like a bigger deal, because it is. And people like Ben and Papa Hells and Eric and all those, they're so important. They keep the conversation going. They create the atmosphere at the shows where people know that these are stars, that this event means something. And, with somebody like Ben, he adds humor to it as well. He's one of the best Twitter follows that you can do. But Ben is also a guy that, I don't think he would mind me sharing this, but he just talks about the connection that he made with Scenic City back in 2015 because he was going through some personal stuff. And he said that, he had just gone through that personal stuff. And then like he just wanted an escape. And that escape was Scenic City. We were there. And I just think about that every time I run a show. Some people may know I run a Facebook profile called Noah Tall. And I made a post on there that said, your wrestling event may be the only thing someone has to look forward to. And I really believe that, every time we go out there, we're doing, grown men fake fighting on the surface, if you want to break it down into the harshest way. But ultimately, it's passionate people that are going out there, putting their bodies on the line, telling stories, overcoming the odds, and really just trying to live their dream. And I think it's so inspirational. It's so fun to watch, and just everything about just professional wrestling, and especially independent wrestling and Southeastern independent professional wrestling. I think it's so passion filled and inspirational, and just something that I think anybody can really get something from watching. And I'm so glad we have that connection with so many people, and especially people like Papa Hells and Ben.
That's beautiful. That's a great, I can't add any more to that. That's awesome.
Scott, we appreciate you joining us tonight. Let everybody know where they can find you at, where they can support the SCI, the tournament and the Rumble, and everything just going on with the show this weekend.
Yeah. So I am Scott C. Hensley on Twitter and on Facebook. Feel free to give me an ad or a follow there. My promotion, of course, is Scenic City Invitational on Facebook, SCI Tournament on Twitter. And we have a big show coming up, 7 big matches live on IWTV, or you can come in person in lovely Appleton, Tennessee. And it is going to be Saturday, March the 3rd at East Hamilton Middle School, the Scenic City Rumble. We have 6 featured bouts, and then a Scenic City Rumble match, 30 entrants, and there will be one winner. That person will win a spot in the Scenic City Invitational Tournament coming up July 12th and 13th in Red Bank, Tennessee. And you can get your tickets at the door or scIwrestling.com.
Again, Scott, we appreciate it, guys. All the links are below where you can support Scott, support SCI. And guys, we'll be right back here on the Spotlight. We are back. Appreciate Scott Hensley joining us to promote SCI Rumble this coming weekend. That's going to be on IWTV. Everybody can check that out. And guys, stick around. We have another interview. Shayne Hawke, who has been on In the Weeds multiple times before, he is here to promote IWS unsanctioned. That's going to be on Fight Plus this weekend. And the documentary that they're going to be working on as well. So stick around. Here we go. Shayne Hawke in the Creator's Spotlight. Welcome back, everyone, to the Creator's Spotlight here on the Spotlight. I'm still Jeremy Lambert. That's still Stephen Jensen. And with us today in the Creator's Spotlight, a man who's made multiple appearances on In the Weeds, making a Spotlight debut, the executive producer, IWS Hardcore. They got their big anniversary show this weekend. Big documentary coming out very soon that starts filming or continues to film this week. He is Andrew. He is Shayne Hawke. How you doing, buddy?
I am well. I'm pumped. I am pumped. Like everything that you just said, it's like a dream come true. And man, it's good to be Andrew right now. It's a good day to be Andrew. I'm gonna say. Well, how are you guys? How are you doing? What's up, guys?
Doing good.
We were chatting a little bit off air. Yeah. I was chauffeuring a bunch of kids around today. We have 12 kids. For those that don't know, that's the kayfabe number.
You're like Daddy Dudley, like you.
Yeah, basically. You seem cheaper by the dozen. That's basically how this whole household is. It's just cheaper by the dozen. Nice. I'm Steve Martin. So
nice to meet you, Steve Martin.
Before we get into it, and I started you asking questions about your cat. Just how you doing? How you doing mentally? How you doing physically, buddy?
Man, I am tired. I'll tell you that much. I'm exhausted. I wish there were more hours in the day, but it's a good tired. It's a lot of hard work for something that I'm seeing payoff for. It's like the good kind of stress, I'm just so excited all the time. I just can't shut my brain off, which is probably a problem. Like I probably should see my therapist about it, but for now it's working. Let's go. Physically, listen, I'm on some new meds right now. They're kind of giving me a brain fog, but they're helping with the pain, so that's really cool. I refuse to do opiates. Like the government tried to give me, like doctors tried to give me opiates, and I just didn't want to do them because wrestlers and opiates, it's not a good idea. But it's just like anti-inflammatory. It's super cool or whatever. And then March 5th, I'm getting those cortisone injections, and then we'll see from there.
So hopefully the cortisone injections go well. What's is there any type of plan when it comes to training, potential return?
Man, I know I've got one left in me. I don't know if I'm coming back full time anytime soon, but I know I've got like one final story to tell. I've got that. I'm 35. I'm gonna be 36, and like that doesn't sound very old, but I've been wrestling for 20 years. Like I'm beat up, and breaking my back twice at this point is like maybe I just let other people do the play fighting now, and I just help them get better at it. You know what I mean? Because it's not fun.
Well, with your role at IWS being the executive producer and also one of the trainers as well, so they got this big documentary that's being worked on. I know there's
documentary.
What's that?
Huge documentary.
Yeah. So we talked to Matt Viviani. We talked to Matt Viviani on Monday, and he said they've done a little bit of filming so far. Maybe he wasn't supposed to say that, but he said they've done a little bit. But they're doing a lot of filming behind the scenes for this weekend and the anniversary event. So
they're coming down on Friday. They're gonna follow us with film crews, and then Saturday they'll be at the show the whole time. Camera crew with me, camera crew with Manny, and then Sunday we got some interviews going down. We got some archival footage that we're gonna get to them. This documentary is huge. Like the people who have made these, like the Generation Iron documentaries, are sick. Like they make me care about bodybuilding, and I'm a nerd, but I love them. Like they're fantastic. So when these people approached us, it was like it almost didn't feel real. You know what I mean? Like it didn't feel like me really, but man, they've been super nice and super accommodating, and I'm really excited to meet their crew, and I'm really excited to make some magic together because I really think that the 25-year history of the IWS is a story that needs to be told.
Yeah, I was gonna say, especially in like documentary form, like y'all got some real characters in that territory. I mean,
you was putting it lightly, as some real characters in that territory.
Yeah, I mean, like we had PCP Manny on a while back, a legend. You know, and then I mean, just like even guys that in just like the main event alone in this upcoming show.
Ultimate death.
Yeah,
you gotta say it that way. You know.
Yes.
Yeah.
Ultimate death.
Ultimate death. Yeah, it has to be like that. It's not.
I mean, you guys like Sexy Eddie and stuff. I mean, like this people that just would be. Yeah, I mean, so if you could, I mean, that's going to make for a very, very even if you're a wrestling fan, I think you'd just be entertained by the characters involved.
Man, I'm excited to see the Sexy Eddie Effie interaction. I'm very excited to see it. I don't know what it's going to be, but I'm very excited to see it. I also feel like nobody really does like high quality death matches like IWS. And here's what I mean by that. I'm not saying that other people around the world are not good at death matches or anything like that, but like Manny is jacked. Phantom is jacked. Sexy Eddie like runs marathons. Like these guys are in amazing shape. They're all gimmick. They all have characters. They can all wrestle, and they're doing deathmatch shit. Like nobody puts these matches together like these guys. And I'm not a deathmatch guy. I'm not, which is ironic based on my position at AWS Hardcore. But it's like not really my thing. But like I love watching these matches. They just like have these amazing, just crazily unique ideas that like every one of them is special. It's so cool. So cool. Sorry, I should let somebody else talk. Go ahead.
No, when we talk,
we love that.
Yeah, when we talk to Manny, you make our job easier when you talk. When we talk to Manny, he mentioned that of just like there's a right way and kind of a wrong way to do a death match, and when he does it, he wants to make sure it's not just hey, let's go out there and fall through tables and hit people with light tubes for no reason. Like there is an actual art to deathmatch. I've said it many times. I'm not a deathmatch person. It's not something that I can watch a full show of. If there's like one on a card, all right, cool, I'm there. Yep. But there's definitely like a right way and a wrong way to do it. I think GCW balances pretty well. Absolutely. And IWS does it very well too. And just like
in Canada, where else are you going to find it? In Canada, where else are you going to find it? The entire country. It's a big ass country. Where are you going to find it? You're not going to find it. No, you're not. It's like that.
You can just tell that certainly Manny puts a lot of care into the deathmatch style, whether it's him or whether it's anybody else competing.
Green Phantom does too, and Sexy Eddie does too, and Mathieu Saint Jacques, who is criminally underrated, is one of the best wrestling minds to come into the Quebec territory in like a generation. Like he's so good, and if people have a chance to have seen his run as C4 champion, I think you can still see that on IWTV where he like faced a bunch of Americans, like criminally underrated. People who don't know who Mathieu Saint Jacques is and they know Canadian wrestling should go to jail. I said it. Just put him in jail. Put him in jail right now. Bye. See ya.
He was on the most like C4's back. I'm pretty sure he was on the most recent C4 show. I'm almost
He's still
positive.
on C4.
Yeah. So he's great. And part of that main event. I mean, and everyone we're talking about too has been around forever. I mean, we're talking like decades on decades of all these guys mentioned.
So if you put like all four of these guys together in terms of how much experience, Saint Jacques is the greenhorn with like 20 years experience.
Right.
Like everybody else in that match has over 20 years experience on the IWS side. There's probably like 100 years combined experience. And these are not like old guys. That's what's cool. Like these guys work their asses off, bro. Like you are going to see a spectacle. And then you get another 6 matches and a pre-show. I don't understand how you couldn't buy a ticket. I would buy a ticket.
That's awesome. And speaking of the deathmatch stuff, I'm kind of more like the deathmatch guy on the show because I cover independent wrestling for Fightful, so I just see so much of it. But I started off as like, I'm actually somebody in real life. I get squeamish at blood. Like I don't like seeing, like I don't like gore and that kind of stuff. Right. But I've gotten so used to like, it's very messed up that I've gotten so used to just like gusset plates and people and like skewers and people. It's like so normal to me now. But I just kind of speaking to like this, yes, kind of speaking to the death match, like the safety there and stuff. If I remember correctly, when we talked to Manny, I'm pretty sure he put over Nick Gage as like the safest, easiest person he's ever worked with. And people would think based on Nick Gage's history and the David Arquette stuff that it would be the opposite, but it isn't.
Absolutely. Nick Gage is he's such a legend and such a nice man. I'll give you a Nick Gage story, okay? Collective 2019. IWS does a show, and then also Interspecies Wrestling did a show. And I like Mike Rocci was the promoter. He was sick, so I was like on both shows, and I got to know I kind of took over. I got to know Nick Gage, and I kind of like in the IWS we always give like this hype speech before we go out. Manny always gives this big ass speech, and it's a really cool speech, and I can't reveal it. The secrets of kayfabe must stay, but it's a really cool speech. So just picture the most hype speech you can think of, and that's what it is. So he wasn't there, so I had to give the version of the hype up speech, and it went really well. And afterwards, Nick Gage takes me aside, and I've just met this man. Okay, we're not long-term friends or anything, but it takes me aside and he's like, man, that was a fucking good speech. I'm pumped as fuck. Yeah, man. Gives me a hug. And I'm like, you are the coolest human being in the history of the world. I love you, Nick Gage. I love you. And every time I see him, he's the sweetest guy. Honestly, man, it's weird how the deathmatch guys are all such sweeties. Matt Tremont. Those are he's so cute. He's such a sweetheart. We love these men. Why Sexy Eddie is one of the nicest people you're ever going to meet in your life. All the deathmatch guys are so nice. That's weird. Wrestling is weird, man. What the fuck? They
get it all out of their system in the ring. It's all right, I've hit people with light tubes and pizza cutters and fallen through tables and all this stuff. Now, it's all love.
Eddie does it naked, so he gets he checks all the boxes, all the degeneracy possible. He can just do in wrestling and get it out of his system. It's great.
I guess that's it. I guess that's really what it is. It's some kind of emotional release that comes along. There's a psychological study to be done by smarter people than me at some point about how deathmatch wrestling and being a complete cutie pie sweetie just go hand in hand. That Venn diagram is probably not a full circle because it's wrestling. There's obviously going to be some terrible people, but pretty close. A snowman kind of thing. That would work.
Talk to us a little bit more about how the documentary came about. You mentioned they approached you, so they just came to you with this idea of hey, we've been following this. We think this would be cool. But how did that all come together?
Straight up, here is the story. They shared one of our clips on their Instagram. And they have 1.6 million followers, 1.2 million. They got a lot of followers. I'm bad at numbers, so I don't remember the exact number, but they got a good following, right? We'd already heard about them and everything. And they shared one of our clips. I don't remember which one it is, but it was a deathmatch clip. I think it was the clip that's on it, it's pinned on our Instagram of Effie and Manny and the Stewards or something like that. Anyway, it's a deathmatch spot. And Jen Iron shared it. And Manny saw that they shared it, so he sent a DM and was like, hey, thank you very much for using our content. If you'd ever like more content, we'd offer you more, being cool. The guy apparently was an IWS fan and already knew about IWS and had been to a show from what I understand. We got in touch, and then soon they were telling us they'd been following us for a while. And this is the production studio, who are all such nice guys. I can't even tell you how pleasant this experience has been, dealing with these big shot producers. So nice, amazing. But yeah, we had a call that was the Friday, and then the Monday I went to Manny's store and we had a call with them, with shooting the shit, figuring out if there's something there. Within a few days, we're okay, yes, we're taking this project, let's go. There's 25 years of history. This is super interesting, and they're so enthusiastic about it, which to me is very, I guess rewarding is the right word, because when you're around yourself all the time, you kind of get down on yourself. You don't really think your accomplishments are as important as they are, that kind of stuff. Insecurity, I think we all have insecurities in general, but the way that they were talking about us just gassed me up so hardcore, and it's been such a great experience. And I in Montreal and Quebec, in my hometown, I feel sometimes familiarity breeds contempt. You know what I mean? Maybe we're not as noticed as we are if we go elsewhere. Because when I go to the States or when I go to Europe or anything like this, people know IWS, and people tell me we grew up watching IWS, which is pretty crazy for an independent wrestling company when you think about it. So with 25 years of footage there, like you said, some colorful characters and stuff like that, and some interviews and filming day of the show stuff, I think the 25th anniversary show was the ideal point to start a documentary like this. So we made it happen within a couple of weeks. This was bam, 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 done. Here are the lawyers, get a contract, go, boom, boom, boom. and it's awesome. It's fantastic. It's phenomenal. And I'm so excited that like we'll have, you know, the Netflix logo on the door, like you're being filmed. It could be on this. Like that's really cool stuff, man. And like that's going to be a really cool experience for me. And I think it's going to be a really cool experience for the fans who show up as well. I think we're really going to have something special, not just in the live atmosphere, because nothing is like the IWS live atmosphere. It's not a wrestling show, man. It is a party. Like it is a party there. You want to be in it. It's like a rock show, but also like captured on film. There's going to be this unique moment, this unique energy, this unique capsule of time, and it's going to be captured. It's going to be immortalized. That's what we're going to do this Saturday. We're going to make history. We're going to become immortal. And it's going to start with this documentary, which is very cool.
Dude, that's awesome. I'm hyped. You got me pumped up right now, dude.
Let's go. Let's go.
Great
man.
fucking speech, Andrew.
Yeah, man. That was your Paul Heyman ECW to the troops speech. Dude, I was gonna ask you. So
yeah,
right.
It's a great speech, bro. Thank you, Nick Gage. Sorry, go ahead. I cut you off.
No, MDK all fucking day. I'm in, man. Hey, listen, we'll throw it up. So I was gonna ask you if the distribution was locked down or if it was too early on for that. So you're saying Netflix is, but possibly no. Netflix?
Yeah, like maybe net. Like we just have like it's a maybe Netflix, maybe Prime. We're not sure where it's gonna go yet. There's no definite decisions, but like it might go to one of these platforms, right? So we're gonna like put the logo on it, just in case, just so everybody knows, because there'll be releases, right? We want to be as truthful as we can with our audience. So that nobody's like blindsided. You know what I mean? Sure.
And well, I mean, in just obviously, even in just recent memory, I mean, I think wrestling documentaries have always been very interesting and very like sought after by wrestling fans, especially before like the internet age, like that we had, because like you got such like backstage stuff that nobody really got. But even current day, like really recently, OVW had the big show on Netflix, and it's done wonders for their business. Like I don't know the back end or what that looks like, but what I do know is when they filmed that show, they were getting like literally like 70 to 75 pay-per-view buys on their Fight Plus. I mean, which isn't much. It's only like 75 buys total, right? But it's better than zero. But it's better than zero. My point though is that like now if you go to their YouTube channel when they run like their live shows before their pay-per-views, they have like 1,000 or so like viewers on YouTube watching, and then that's gonna, at least part of that's gonna end. Like so I saw even just then it was like an OVW's been around forever, IWS has been around forever, and it's like the exposure you get with that, and it's such a good way to form a bond with that fan base of them just getting invested in you guys as performers and as a company and everything. And so I think even just the recent success of something like that OVW doc is like really like a bright, positive thing that I think you have to look forward to.
We want it to be bright and positive as well. Like we really want to properly portray pro wrestling. And for a really long time, like Montreal has been known as a hotbed of pro wrestling, right? Like we know Montreal, but that's like years and years and years ago. Montreal is still a hotbed it's one of the best wrestling territories in the world. And the fact that we're going to get to show the world that gives me chills. I'm so excited because put our Montreal boys against anybody in the world. Please do it. Go, because they're going to out-wrestle them. I'm telling you, the amount of hidden gems that people are going to be able to get in on the ground floor. Oh, so good.
Okay, I want you to put people over because you're always fantastic about that. Every time you join us, you're always great about bigging up the hometown people. But before that, I do have a question. It's 25 years of IWS. There's been a lot of names who have come through the scene. Do you know if they talk to any of them, if they have old footage of comments made by some of these people?
The documentary?
Yes, for the documentary.
Oh, we're providing them with our archives.
Okay.
Yeah. So we're giving them the archives. So like there have been, interviews and stuff that have been done that I'm sure there's some form of never released footage. I mean, I don't know because I personally don't know the footage, right? But like there's got to be some cool hidden gems in there for sure.
Yeah.
I'm not an editor guy. I couldn't tell you for sure. That's for sure. But like there's old footage that's going to be released and all the archival stuff that like maybe wasn't around because the internet wasn't around yet, because Bloodstream, IWS's weekly show, was like the first weekly streaming show online ever.
Manny told us the story of
Yeah.
how that came together.
I was 14 years old when I started wrestling training in that studio. So yeah, that was a thing. And now I'm 35. But there's some stuff that just needs to be shared. It needs to be documented, to like say the thing, and it's going to be so cool. And March 2nd is going to be so cool. Like, if you can't be there live, you need to watch it online, because this show is so good. I'm positive it's going to be amazing. I have like creative goosebumps with what we got ready for this show. Like, we have new people, but we also have legends. We're going to have surprises. There's going to be twists and turns, and there's ultimate death, which is said like that. Don't forget, you must say it like that as the main event at the Olympia Theater, which is a beautiful, beautiful theater. Like, it's like a real old style theater. And then we're going to be filming, so everybody's going to be on their best behavior too. Everybody will look all pretty because they know that the camera's going to be on them, right? So hey, if there's ever a time, now is the time. And also, like, our production crew, fantastic people. Our new director Pasquale, and of course JT producer, and then Mark Green. They've been working really hard, like night and day, to make sure that this looks top quality too. So you can expect a production value that is not often seen amongst independent wrestling companies. And I think that is one thing that IWS has going for it. Like, our stuff, our technical level, which I know nothing about and therefore I'm not taking credit for, is always like next level good. It's too good for like independent wrestling. It's not just like a couple of dudes with a camera. Manny is a technical wizard when it comes to this stuff. So it's going to look good. It's going to be entertaining. It's going to be a party. Like I said, it's going to be a party. If you like to party, you should be at this show. And if you don't like parties, what are you doing? I'm so confused. Like, what do you do with your life?
This is the same building that y'all did the IWS versus GCW show.
That's right.
Yeah. This venue's awesome. This is like you're not.
There's the side panels, right?
Yeah.
Like, so there's like the moving side panels, and then the big panel. If you saw IWS GCW, there was cold pyro in that. Like that's like not even real. Like, it's pyro that shoots out cold, so nobody can get burned. Like, what indie company has that?
Yeah.
Right? There's going to be the trussing and the lights and all that. There's going to be a sick setup. The lighting is going to be on. It's going to be on point. The camera work's going to be on point. The wrestlers are so hungry. They know that this is a shot to make it around the world. Like you said, the exposure at the OVW documentary. Well, every single person is going to have that kind of, like, a chance at that kind of exposure, right?
Yes.
And like, a lot of these people are grinders who have been working their asses off for years just to get a taste, just to get that one shot, right, to get noticed. So everybody is going to be competing for that one shot to get noticed. And that competition is going to breed fucking magic, dude.
And you guys are bringing in, I mean, you got the ultimate death.
Ultimate death.
See, it's fun, right? You had to say
it. But we've got GCW people coming in, like Effie, like Ali Catch, Joey Janela, Speedball Mike Bailey is on this show.
Broski Jimmy Lloyd.
Jimmy.
Yeah. So it's not just, I mean, it's largely IWS guys, but like it's other names that American fans will know from the let's be honest, the top independent scene in America, GCW. And so like that's a big opportunity, knowing like, hey, we're gonna get these eyes on us as well.
And like I've said this on Fightful before, I feel like Americans don't know that Canada exists a lot of the time, and they should. The Canadian scene is fantastic. But I feel like people are learning more about it now. There's like a lot more chatter about the Canadian indies. People are kind of waking up to it. But like, man, top level stuff. And if you disagree with me, I have 20 years of experience, and you're wrong. So there you go. It's done. It's going to be good.
Yeah, I want to get some more of your thoughts on specifically on Speedball Mike Bailey, because he's a guy who like everyone knew was good for quite a while, but then he had like whatever was the visa issues or whatever, where he couldn't come over to the States, and it was like his career wasn't really on pause, but it's like he would his blow up would have happened sooner. But it's one of those things where like, what's it like seeing just like a guy from Canada finally breaking through? Because I feel like he's on everyone's list right now of like best wrestler of the year for the last like few years.
He has to be.
Yeah.
First of all, I love Speedball. Speedball and I go back years and years and years and years and years. Like, he's such a good dude, and he's so talented, and he works so hard. Everything that he's getting, he deserves tenfold. Like, and like you said, like, if he would have had those extra 5 years, like, the other independent wrestlers in the United States right now are lucky that they got a 5-year head start on him. Right? Yeah. Because he's that good. Like, and that's not even like me bragging about my friend. That's just the truth. Like, Speedball is that good. You cannot disagree with it. It's an objective fact. No matter where you're going, match of the night contender, Speedball, if not match of the year contender, with anybody. We were blessed to have him. Like, I mean, it was very difficult for him, but I selfishly feel like we were blessed to have him with us for those 5 years. You know, a lot of students in my IWS dojo got to benefit from learning from him and are better for it. You know, Chris Dara, Nathan Yarimovich, Alex Mays, like, these people are light years ahead of their experience level because they got to train with Bailey. If you have the chance to take a seminar with Speedball Mike Bailey and you are a wrestler or involved in the business in any way and you don't do it, you're stupid. You're stupid. He has such a great, unique mind for wrestling, and somehow his body does things that I can't think of ever being capable of. But he does them flawlessly, effortlessly. Best wrestler in the world. I'm going to stop gushing about him because I'm going to get a message and be like, Andrew, you're supposed to talk about yourself and not just put me over. But Andrew.
You gave me the headline of the everybody's lucky they got 5-year head start on Speedball.
Boom. Yeah, that'd be good.
It's true.
Like, no, especially because look at the landscape of wrestling. Like AEW like hadn't really started yet. Like there's like a lot of things that like he would have probably been a part of had he been in the States for those 5 years. I mean,
PWG was big at that time, right?
Right.
Like, PWG was like the biggest indie. There was like PWG and ROH, right?
Right.
And like Speedball was like winning Bola and like wrestling against Kenny Omega, right? And winning. Yes. He was at the top of one of the top, if not the top indies at the time, because like, you know, PWG was like ROH was the more corporate one, and PWG was more like work ratey, funny, you know, that kind of how it is now. And Speedball was at the top of that like years and years and years ago before he even got it, and all he did was like go to Japan and go to Europe and just get better and just keep training. Like, dude was like Batman, you know, like he goes on his like journey, his travel journey around the world. Like, he can't go to the States, so he goes to like all these other, like he goes to Japan, he goes to like the UK, and like, man, now it's his mind too. That's what it is. It's not just that he's physically talented, it's that he understands professional wrestling in a microscopic way that people don't take the time to break down. That's really what it is. Like, his wrestling mind and psychology, we hear a lot about the term like wrestling psychology, right? But for a lot of people, like, wrestling psychology is like, oh, if you work the arm, you should do an arm submission in your match. But for Speedball, it's more like, okay, if like, because Speedball always plans backwards, like these kind of things, right? Like, he just has these little tips and tricks for reducing the amount of memory points you need in a match so that you can improvise more and work with the crowd more while still having a top quality match. It's just like, he's a walking cheat code of professional wrestling. That's what Speedball Mike Bailey is.
There, and by the way, I don't want to even like speculate, because like him personally, he might like, I don't know where he would or wouldn't have wound up. Who knows? Like, but I agree with everything. He's as talented as they come. And one other actually a tag team I wanted to get your thoughts on,
Sure.
Because I'm not just saying this because you're on the show. I've actually brought them up before, and I'd love to interview these guys at some point. But I think the most slept on tag team, honestly, maybe in the world, is Fresh Air. I think McCray Martin and Junior Benito, because like if you know, because they're around, like you see them all the time, but like they still pop up in new. There you go.
I'm wearing McCray's shirt right now, bro.
The hot stepper. I don't know if they still use that music or not. I've heard them change it up a little bit, but like the hot stepper music's like my favorite. I love that theme song. But if you can speak on those guys, because I discovered them through IWS.
I'd love to.
Yeah, go ahead. Go for it.
McCray Martin and I were C4 tag team champions as Hawk Stepper. He first started his wrestling training with me before moving on to the Keep. Super nice and talented dude. very athletic, really talented. Junior Benito is this wonderful alien man who just doesn't seem like he exists in our planet, but our planet is just so much better for having him. That's the way to describe Junior Benito. He's a weirdo, but he's the best kind of weirdo, and he's such a nice guy, and like he's a straight, and they're both so talented too. Like, I would compare them to the way IWS was in like 2000 and early 2000 something, where they had the Smash Brothers and you had 2.0 and you had Kevin and you had Sami Zayn, like you had those guys, and they were still being slept on, like people weren't paying attention yet, but they eventually broke out and got really, really big. I think that's what we're seeing with Fresh Air. I think they have the potential to be a top tag team, not just in the province, not just in the country, in the world. And they've already done some tours of Europe. They're doing really well. They're hard workers. I know they're hungry. Their high flying ability is just mind blowing, and they're so in sync. And that's because they're really good friends for real. But they have this cohesiveness to them that I do find is lacking in a lot of tag teams. Like, a lot of tag teams seem like they're working together, but they don't seem like they're in each other's head. You know what I mean? A little bit like that. Like, there's some people that work really well together and maybe like are able to like predict what the other one will do. Like, I'm working a heat and I'm about to throw on a move and like my partner is ready for the strike right there, kind of thing. You know what I mean? But like, their cohesiveness, like their bond as a tag team is very, very strong. We've seen their awesome matches that they've been having in the States too, against like Miracle Generation and those kind of guys. And if you follow Junior Benito, he's been doing some great stuff in C4 wrestling. And in Fresh Air, they unfortunately, due to McRae's injury, they relinquished the IWS Tag Team Championships. They had missed 3 dates in a row. It is what it is. No hate whatsoever. We just wanted some fighting champions. That's all. And then Junior has a chance at the IWS Canadian Championship because we're not going to take one belt away and not give him an opportunity at another one, right? But I think no matter what, they might, like, once McRae is better, they're going to make their way back to the IWS Tag Team Championship scene. Like, that's not even a question. If they're not gone by then, let's be honest, if they're not like signed to somewhere, right, because they're both young and talented and getting into great shape and charismatic, and you want to watch them, so they might get signed somewhere. I could see it happening.
And Junior is the C4 champion right now, isn't he? So yeah, super talented, both those guys for sure.
Yeah, man. I had a great time teaming with McRae as Hawk Stepper, trying to be cool with the youths. I would wear the bucket hat too and try to do the dancing. I was a cool teacher, you see. I'm a cool professor. It didn't work, but the crowd seemed to like it. So I guess it did work in the end.
Jensen, I didn't know if you had another name to throw at Shayne.
I mean, we can talk about a lot of these people. I mean,
let's shoot on people.
You want me to shoot on people? So,
I mean,
who have we not talked about that I'd be really interested? Well, I mean, if you can speak on Lufisto's coming in for the show, isn't she?
Yes.
Yeah.
If you want to speak on Lufisto, Hall of Famer coming in.
Yeah, Lufisto is a Hall of Famer. She's in the IWS like original badass woman, you know. Recently started a women's company, WWS, to be a sister company to the IWS. I think she's wonderful. I personally love Lufisto. I love working with Lufisto. And that's in and out of the ring. I think she's a fantastic person. Considered her my wrestling mom for a while. I think she was targeted on the internet for some things that got taken out of hand, but I think the internet is stupid. I think that there are a lot of people who just want to be negative for the sake of being negative. There are a lot of people who feel empty in their lives, and the only reason you really have for dragging somebody down is admitting that they're above you already. So I think she's going to have a badass match with Katrina Creed. Katrina Creed is an IWS Dojo graduate as well. Super talented, the Cobra, another person who a lot of people should be paying closer attention to. But man, the IWS women's division is on fire. And I proudly trained a good number of them myself. But like, it's gotten to the way we have multiple women's matches per shows and like intergender stuff all the time. And that all started largely because of Lufisto. Most people don't know, or some people do, but like she went to war with the government in Ontario, which is the province next to Quebec. Went to war over the fact that like women weren't allowed to wrestle. Like a lot of women are able to wrestle in Eastern Canada because Lufisto fought the law and won. And if that doesn't make you a legend, I don't know what does. She's great.
Oh yeah, I got one last question. This is not wrestling related. This is my mother. She passed when I was younger, but she was from Montreal, and she would always brag about the bagels. She loved the bagels from Montreal. Can you elaborate on that? That was like the one thing I always remember her talking about Montreal.
Man, I don't know how they're made. Like I'm not like, but my old tag team partner, Stu Corbus, he was a bagel maker by trade. Like that was his whole job. He just made bagels. I've had New York bagels. Okay, I'm biased. I understand, but Montreal bagels smoke New York bagels. All right, let's say that's the controversial line that we're gonna get in trouble for. That's what it is. But no, Montreal cuisine is really, really high quality. It's really, really good. Like we take food very, very seriously, and especially because it's a very like touristy city and like European based, like whatever you want to call it. We take our food very, very seriously, and like a good bagel, very important to the point where like my family members will ask me to bring them bagels when I travel. Like they will ask me to bring Montreal bagels to Toronto or LA or wherever it is that I'm going. Like they're that good. I don't know what they use. Maybe crack. I don't know.
they enrich them with
yeah, you know, sprinkle a little crack on it. I don't know. But like whatever it is, they are delicious and dangerous, especially if you're trying to watch your carbs.
Awesome.
Shayne, something we ask every single guest here on the show: the coolest thing in your room
currently?
Yeah, if you can show us, even better.
Oh yeah, I can show you. Hang on. Oh no, shit! It's at the dojo. Okay, I was gonna show you. Hang on. I can find something.
You're good.
Okay. I got lots of cool shit here, man. Like here, this is on my wall. I don't know if you can see it. Here, it's a framed copy of WrestleMania 2017 #1. It's the first wrestling comic book I had published. My name is there. I guess you can see Stott. That's my real name. Can you see it?
There we go. Yeah.
Yeah. My friend Andy, Bobby Animal Anger, and I, we did a 10-pager on Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens, and like it was kind of like stylized as them when they were kids. I also have a friend one where we did 10 pages on Kane and the Undertaker for the official Boom WWE comic book. And it's them as children in the burning building leading to the fire being set. So I got to write that, which was very cool. And then apparently like WWE gave it out at their shareholders meetings as a gift. Like a buddy of mine who's a shareholder like texted me and was like, yo, they're giving out your book as a gift. And I was like, that's really cool. So there's that.
Real quick, Shayne, that's fascinating. Hey, you mentioned Bob Anger. We hadn't put him over at all. If you want to go ahead and do that for a second.
Well, hold on.
Okay.
Before you put him over, he's supposed to be on In the Weeds tomorrow.
Okay.
Yeah, we're recording this on Tuesday. This interview will air on Thursday, but Bob will be on In the Weeds. By the time everybody sees this, he'll already be on In the Weeds on Wednesday. Can you actually like bury him, and then we can, talk shit to him tomorrow?
That interview that he did yesterday was the shits, brother. All right, let me tell you, I thought I trained him better than that. The fact is that Bob Anger, I guess, just doesn't have it tomorrow yet. I can't, dude. No, I can't.
I realize I made that very confusing.
And there's some kind of time travel shenanigans.
Yes.
It's a Hulk Hogan type scenario where you actually could do this in the same day somehow.
Right. Like, yeah. Like wearing two watches at the same time. No, he's great, man. Like a really talented artist, really talented wrestler. Like one of the most positive guys I've ever met, which is awesome to be around. Like I like working with people that I like working with. You know what I mean? Good dude. He's gonna be like, part of the documentary thing that we're gonna do is probably like go to Lethal Comics, which is the studio place that we work at, and go over a few other images and stuff. So I've written a book. So here's a scoop for you. I've written a book called Shayne Hawke Storyteller: The Illustrated Guide to Professional Wrestling Match Structure. And what it's going to be is it's going to be a comic book version of like the formula of a pro wrestling match. So it'll be like teaching you how a pro wrestling match is structured, but in comic book form. Kind of like Marvel used to do this thing, how to read comic books the Marvel way. And like that was a book that they would put out. But this is going to be a graphic novel illustrated book that is going to be used kind of like as an educational guide, but mostly as like just knowledge in general of how to structure and plan a wrestling match from A to Z based on classic structure, essentially. And we're going to do it in graphic novel form, which is going to be dope. And then there'll be like little like snippets in it, like how to cut a promo, how to build a promo, like where do we go with that? All sorts of little tips and tricks for pro wrestling, but all, like I said, all illustrated in comic book form. And we're going to be kickstarting that pretty soon. The script is done. It's in art production. The cover is done. I'm just honestly waiting for this show to be over before really like jumping into that. Because all my energy is here right now on this show on March 2nd. But this comic book that I've got coming out, I'm super stoked about. And
that sounds awesome.
Thank you. I think it's going to be super fun for wrestling fans and non-fans alike. And like, look, like there's no one way to do professional wrestling. Wrestling is subjective, in my opinion, right? Like it's an art form. If you don't like the action, you can do comedy. If you don't like comedy, there's drama, these kind of things. But at the same time, like narrative fiction is still written with a certain structure, like either Freytag's Pyramid or like Joseph Campbell's Hero Monomyth. And like every kind of like big action movie follows basically the same structure, right? So like Star Wars kind of follows the same structure as like Lord of the Rings, as like all the Marvel movies, basically, like they all follow the same kind of narrative structure to really break it down to like bits and pieces like that. And I want to do that with pro wrestling. So I want to break down what I call devices of pro wrestling. And that way, like you can, it's a formula in like the metaphor that I use is like this. I'm going to give you a coloring book that teaches you wrestling. Whether you choose to color inside the lines is cool. Whether you want to color outside the lines and be creative, also cool. But the coloring book will be better for you than a blank page. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Choose your own adventure.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah. Like that is, you said you were kickstarting, and I don't know if you literally mean you're going to do a Kickstarter for it, or you're about to
do a Kickstarter.
I'll absolutely be a part of that.
You.
Oh, absolutely. Oh yeah, DM me the link, and I'll dude. That's actually, I'm not joking. That's fascinating. Like that, I think that wrestlers and fans are gonna really.
Right.
That's a totally different approach to like insider stuff.
That's
like,
it, and it's like. I want it to be like an educational guide. You know what I mean? Like it's there to inform. It's not there to like as a Bible. It's not there as like you have to do it this way. Because I'm sure that one of like the old heads who just says negative stuff for engagement will come after me. Like Disco Inferno or somebody will like be really upset that I did this and I ruined the business that has. It's so weird how the business keeps dying and yet never goes anywhere, and right, you know, it just keeps getting better and better. But anyway. Someone's going to. I'm excited for it. But like, I really feel like it'll be a useful tool for professional wrestling students. And at the same time, like maybe give fans a deeper appreciation for the art form, right? Like instead of just showing people like, hey, this is a good match, figure it out yourself. Like, why is it a good match? Like what makes the breakdown so good about it? Like, what's the shine? What's the comeback? What are all these little moving pieces that we use with terminology, these kind of things? And I feel like it'll give people a deeper understanding and therefore a deeper emotional connection to their favorite matches. So I think it'll like increase your love of what you already love and give you a deeper appreciation for the art form that wrestlers perform. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, that's genius. It really is. It's a great idea.
Yeah, it's written. It's like the cover, like I said, is ready, which we're going to be probably premiering in the movie, which is kind of cool. And then just a matter of getting it done. I've seen some sample pages recently. Andy's art is so cool. We've got another guy named Mo working on it with us. He's super talented. It's like a distilled version of what I teach in the IWS Pro Dojo. And our graduates speak for ourselves at this point. Like my students have worked for WWE, AEW, and like literally across the world and all across Canada. They need a lot more attention too. I'm sure they will in a few years, but like in such a short amount of time, it's come so far. And honestly, a lot of this is from discussions I've had with Mike Bailey, and other wrestling minds as well, of course. And this is my take on things, right? And like, this was what worked for me, not for everybody else. What works for you in wrestling could be completely different. But I think it's going to be a fun take, and it's going to be a fun experiment. And I think the art is going to be really cool. So why not? And then, so yeah, we're going to kickstart it eventually. I'm going to put that online when it comes online.
Are you going to include like deathmatch stuff in that as well?
Not yet. So what I'm going to do is I'm starting with just a singles match. And then if this does well, then maybe we do a tag match. Maybe we do trios. Maybe we do death matches. Maybe we do scrambles. All of these matches have their own structures. They all have their own like skeletons that we can put together, right?
Yeah.
And once we build a skeleton of our match, then we can add our own meat and potatoes, our individual character-based stuff, right? So learning pro wrestling match structure actually allows a performer to better connect with their audience. If you already know what, and like when I learned, it was all improv, right? But if you knew improv really well, like for example, Steamboat and Flair wrestled each other so many times that they could just like call shit on the fly, right? Like it was easy for them. They already knew the structure of their match, and that gave them more time to interact with the fans. Like there was more improvisation being done because they knew what they were doing. And one thing about pro wrestling that I always say is that it's one of the last bastions of true Shakespearean theater, where you have a live audience on all four sides of you at all times, and they have influence on the story. You know, if you go to like, I've made this analogy before, but if you go to the theaters and you go watch like, you know, the Avengers in the theaters, and you yell to Captain America, like, hey, don't throw your shield, he's going to catch it. Like Captain America still throws his shield, right? But in pro wrestling, if you yell like, hey, take a superplex, presumably the people are going to do that for you, right? So it's one of the only art forms where the audience and the creators come together to create the narrative at the same time. Like it's synergistic between, it's this piece of art that can only be formed by the watcher and the receiver, which is super cool and super unique, and just like is what makes wrestling so special and what keeps it surviving through all this time. Because how long has wrestling been around? I mean, it keeps dying every time. The Young Bucks have killed it at least like 100 times.
A lot of rebirths.
So,
yeah.
But that's why I think wrestling. That's why I think wrestling fans get so attached and like sometimes to a toxic level of like, you know, the tribalism or whatever. But like that's a big part of it, because they feel like they do have an influence. Like if they cheer hard enough or boo hard enough, like their favorites will have opportunities. Their least favorites won't be on the show. Like I mean,
look at all the movements like the Cesaro section and like the we want, like they have, like look what happened with The Rock recently.
Yeah, I'm a Cody crybaby, dude, big time.
Great. You know what? I think Cody's great. I think The Rock is great too. I think they really made lemonade out of lemons with this business. Like this is good business that they're doing. But like the fans literally changed the end of WrestleMania.
Yeah.
You can't change a bigger piece of wrestling than that. But the fans did it. That's amazing. Right? Like that's like they made that happen. So, you know, like if a wrestler is not wrestling in service of the crowd, they're in the wrong sport. Straight up. If you're doing this for yourself and not for the audience, you're in the wrong business. Straight up. Because look how powerful that can be. Just that emotional connection. The Rock is a billionaire, and they made him change his mind. He has fucking money. What's he gonna, like, if The Rock tomorrow was like, you know what? No, I actually want to win the title. Like, people are gonna complain online, but you know what? Like, they're still gonna keep watching. The man's still gonna be a billionaire. But like, no, we're gonna listen now. And that's, I try to do that with IWS as much as possible too, is just listen. And it's like, I watch the shows live, like I'm a fan. I listen to the fans. I want to hear how they're reacting. I read the comments. I care about their opinion, which is terrible for my mental health, but I do. And that's what makes pro wrestling special, man. It's like the brain chemistry gets rewired based on what you're seeing in front of you. And like, that might sound like crazy stoner conspiracy talk, but it's true about dopamine and serotonin and how we like to see movement and things. These are scientific principles, right?
Yeah.
wrestling is so special because of that. And March 2nd is going to be a celebration of how special pro wrestling can be. And from the innovation of so many things, like a weekly TV show, stuff like that, weekly web show, right? To the highest caliber of deathmatch, where it's like can get even non-deathmatch people to watch it. There will be high flying. There will be ground wrestling. There will be amazing strikers. There will be world-class talent. Effie, Speedball, Janela, Ali. We've also, like, we got Marcus Mathers on the card too. We've got the best of Canada against the best of the United States. And like, if you have a Triller subscription, you can just put it on and watch one of the most entertaining shows you're going to see this year. Because other companies can coast. They can afford coasting. There are companies that, like, they can have a bad one, right? Like, you can have a bad pay-per-view. You can have a great balls of fire, right? And it's not going to affect your bottom line. For us, everything is on the line for this show. 25 years. My entire adult life, I've spent more time in the IWS while living than not. This is my entire life. This is my shot. And I've been doing this for 20 years, and I've been doing it damn well. And I'm not the only one who's been doing it damn well. Because guys like Sexy Yeti have been grinding for years. Guys like the Green Phantom, grinding for years. Guys like Peace Be Manny, giving their lives, their souls, everything they can to this. This is the shot. And you better believe we're going to take it.
I hope you're giving the speech on March 2nd. Like,
I'm improving this. I'm straight.
I hope you're back there. I hope you're giving the speech to everybody before the show. And
I'm definitely going to give a speech. I will absolutely give a speech.
I hope you do.
I'll probably write something as well, so I'm not just.
No, just go out there, just.
This is working on me, man. Like,
yeah, I can tell Jensen. Jensen is like, he's ready to go through the wall right now.
Yes, you are.
Yeah.
Hell yeah, and I will go through the wall with you. And I'll go through the wall. I'll go through it first, because I'm not going to ask you to do something that I wouldn't do myself. That's crazy talk, right? But man, it's real passion and real emotion, man. It really, really is. Like, I'm just speaking from the heart. I'm just speaking my truth. I'm not cutting a promo on you right now. I didn't write anything down. There's nothing written on my forearms. I got nothing. This is just Andrew being real.
It comes through every single time. I've talked to you every time you've been kind enough to join us on any of the shows. I remember the first show we did. I either had to leave. I think I left in the middle of it. Yeah. The first interview. Yes, I had to go be a superhero. Because my wife was having car trouble.
Family, so I had to go save important, her. Man. Family is important.
I had to go save her. But then you, again, gracious enough to come back, gracious enough with your time tonight. One last hard sell for everything, whether they want to follow you. And of course, the show this weekend, March 2nd, it's on Fight TV, Triller TV. It's IWS 25th anniversary show, unsanctioned.
That's right. So first of all, at Superstar Hawk, Hawk is any at the end. You can kind of see it on the screen right now. See how Hawk is. So make sure you follow me on every single platform, literally Instagram, Twitter. I just got TikTok. I'm learning TikTok. I'm old. I'm not good at it, but I'm trying. My girlfriend tells me I'm cringe, which apparently is bad, but also sometimes good. I do think that one thing that makes me uniquely positioned in the wrestling world right now is that I am this bridge between the old school of 20 years ago and the younger generation that's coming up now, right? Because I have 20 years experience, but I'm only 35 years old. So I'm able to communicate between these two generations in a way that I feel like would not have been possible had I not been there, right? And my thing is that I get the best out of people. I just want people to do well, because you know what, man? When people are doing well around me, when people are happy around me, that makes me happier. I win. It's selfish. I want to entertain people. I want them to be happy, because then those people are nice to me and my life gets better. The hard sell that I'm going to give you, honestly, is that I've collected 20 years of experience around the entire world, wrestling and working with all of the top names for all of the top companies, and I am still just a dude named Andrew. But I want to be more than a dude named Andrew. I want to make it because my friends have all made it. My peers have all gone on to become, the AEWs and the WWEs, and guys like Manny and I, guys like Eddie and I, guys like Green Phantom and I, guys like Mathieu St. Jacques and I, we have been chomping at the bit for a chance to show the world that we belong at that top level. I genuinely believe in my heart that we're going to get there on March 2nd, I think this show will be special. And you can look at me in my eyes and know that I am telling the truth. Hand to God, we are going to do whatever it takes to make our mark on the industry. And the reason we're going to do it is because we never thought we would get here in the first place. We started this for fun with our friends, just to enjoy ourselves and maybe give people a couple smiles, a couple of laughs. Now it's become a movement. You need to get on board now, because this is the next big thing, and you want to be able to say you were here first, because this will explode, because I've given 20 years of my life to it, and it has to. How's that? Hard sell?
Let's fucking go.
Amazing. I mean, I can't. There's nothing I can add to that. Are you kidding me? That's the best.
Let's
sell
go.
Thank you.
Thank you, Andrew. Thank you,
I appreciate
Shayne.
you guys having me, man. Really do.
Thank you for doing this again, guys. It is IWS unFN sanctioned. It is March 2nd. It is on Triller TV, Fight TV. You can order that. If you cannot make it live, if you make it live, go out there, head out there. But you can watch it online. Stay tuned for more information about the documentary. As more information about that gets released, we will continue to post about it. I'm sure we'll continue to have guys like Shayne, whether it's on this show, whether it's on In the Weeds, promoting everything. Guys, we appreciate it. All the links are below to support Shayne, to support IWS. And guys, we'll be right back here on the Spotlight. Big thank you to Shayne Hawke for joining us. Shayne's always been very gracious, very kind with his time, whether it's this show or whether it's In the Weeds. We appreciate him. All right, guys, that's going to do it for me. Long show today because we had 2 interviews, but we are very, very happy to bring you 2 interviews, and hopefully everyone enjoyed them. Hopefully you guys watch the shows this weekend, SCI and IWS. Check out Revolution this weekend. It's a busy week in wrestling. MLW's tonight, along with the usual ROH and Impact. SmackDown tomorrow, Rampage, Collision. The world of wrestling never stops. Guys, we'll be back next week with a brand new episode of The Spotlight. In the Weeds tomorrow is still iffy. Not sure. We'll figure it out. I'll let everybody know. If you were in the Fightful Discord, that's where you'll find out first, most likely. So you can head over. If you're a member of Fightful Select, you can join the Fightful Discord. So go do that if you would like to. We appreciate everybody. Thanks for the chats, tuning in, the super chats. Leave a thumbs up on the video. Subscribe to the channel. Subscribe to Fightful Overbooked. We appreciate everyone. We will talk to y'all next week. Bye, everybody.